It's been 5 years since a game that defined a genre was released. Since 2015, we've had copycats, clones, games that use the formula to try something new, but they all spawned because of one Polish studio and their want to create a masterpiece. For the 5-year anniversary, I wanted to take a journey back into this epic adventure. I haven't played this game properly since I finished Blood and Wine back in 2016, besides the odd stream where we were playing for challenge and not story. I haven't touched this game because I've been waiting for the right moment, for the right time, and it's finally come. I won't be touching DLCs in this video because, I mean, the whole thing is so big that I just couldn't cram it all into one video. That being said, I'll definitely be jumping back into those at their respective 5-year anniversaries, so subscribe for that to come. Now, this video is long. I know it, you know it, we all know it, but let me explain. What I've basically done is split this up into chapters, all of which are timestamped, so if you want to watch chapter by chapter at your own leisure, you can. Think of it like watching episodes of a TV show. You can choose when to watch each piece of this video, and it's split nicely for ease of access down in the description. But without further ado, join me as we hop back into and experience the magic that is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher began as a series of books from Polish author Andrzej Sapkowski. Published in 1992 was the first book, Sword of Destiny. The first 2 books in the series were short stories centering around Geralt and other main characters, which would become a saga of books to follow. An epic story of love, loss, action, companionship, and everything you'd expect from a series of fantasy novels. Sapkowski ended this series in 1999, concluding the story of Geralt of Rivia. In the early 2000s, a studio from Poland known as CD Projekt Red acquired the rights to the Witcher series of books for the equivalent of $9,500 US. This studio set out to make an RPG in this universe, but not simply adapting the stories from the books, but telling their own story, continuing threads left open from the final book and beginning a new story for Geralt of Rivia. I would delve deeper into these games, however at some stage I would love to revisit them for their own video, and so best not do it all here. The Witcher released in October 2007 to great reviews, however this was a very niche game. The Witcher for sure captivated an audience of RPG fans, but it was a very small and very specific audience. In partnership with Microsoft on The Witcher 2 allowed for a much bigger marketing campaign than before, but it was safe to say, after the first Witcher release, the books, the characters, they were more well known than ever before. The book's sales skyrocketed and continue to do so to this day. The year The Witcher 1 launched, we also saw the first English translated version of The Last Wish. Moving on, this studio took what they learned and began to work on the sequel, The Witcher 2: Assassins of Kings. Having a partnership with Microsoft for Xbox 360 exclusivity on consoles really helped with the marketing campaign, and it's safe to say that when The Witcher 2 launched in 2011, a lot more people knew about it and a lot more people loved it. But that wasn't the end. Following the release of their second entry, CD Projekt Red wanted to do more. With a self-funded budget of $81 million, starting with just 150 staff, in 2011, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt began production. It was clear to see from the marketing, demos, and trailers that this game was big, but I don't think anybody really could have predicted just how big it would become. The hardcore fans were excited, the mainstream audience watched this game with bated breath, and CD Projekt Red worked countless days and nights forging what would become, to many, the king of role-playing games. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was released on May 19th, 2015. Coincidentally, my 18th birthday, so hi everyone, this video should be up on my 23rd, thanks for the birthday wishes. But back to the matter at hand, The Witcher 3 launched to incredible reviews, currently holding a 93 score on Metacritic. I still remember hopping into this game for the first time. I remember the feeling I had when I booted it up on Steam at midnight, and just felt the world build around me, felt the music swell, and felt the story unfold. This game is truly one of magnificence, and that's why I had to, for the 5-year anniversary, take that step back into it to experience it all over again. So join me as we begin our journey into The Witcher 3. As we begin the game, we're treated to a gorgeous cinematic piece showing Yennefer's journey across the battlefields and forests as Geralt tracks her days later. Seeing both her experience and the aftermath that Geralt and Vesemir are experiencing is beautiful, the music is spectacular, and it sets the scene wonderfully. As we enter the eye of the Skull of a Raven, the music swells and we see the first ballsy move from CD Projekt Red. They transition directly from a CGI scene to an in-game scene. Usually this is not a great idea because in-game can never live up to CG, but in this case, for some reason, it works. For some reason, when the camera panned out of the skull, I was honestly blown away with just how good it looked. I expected for it to zoom out and have this jarring disconnect from the CGI scene to in-game, but there wasn't, and I was impressed. This is how the game begins to teach us of the story and of the mechanics in a tutorial inside of a dream, which not only allows for us to experience Geralt's past, get a feel for his character, learn the basics of mechanics and set up story in one fell swoop, but we're also introduced to Ciri in the same way that Geralt remembers her. We also establish characters like Yennefer, who we've never met before in the games, and the fact that dreams are important to the world of The Witcher. What Geralt dreams of is usually because things are happening in the real world. And with that too, we're also introduced to the main threat of this game, the Wild Hunt. Fearsome and bold, these foes are not to be messed with, and we see the fear in Geralt's face as his dream crumbles around him, which tells the player these guys are not going to be easy to overcome. Being brought back to the real world, we're on the hunt for Yennefer in Temeria on the road to Vizima. Geralt tells Vesemir about his dream, about Kaer Morhen, Yen, Ciri, and the Wild Hunt. At this point, we get our first dip into dialogue options, choosing which things to open up about and which things to stray away from. Gold dialogue indicating crucial quest dialogue, which will progress the story or pacing, while white dialogue is extra information, exposition or backstory, making it optional. A simple system, but very complex once broken down into the trees that we get later on. All of the main core gameplay is displayed once this scene ends, fighting the ghouls, teaching us the basics of dodging, signs, health and the like, pushing us into navigating to the nearest tavern at daybreak. With the golden sun rising in the distance, you, as Geralt, ride with Vesemir into town, a place called White Orchard. Geralt and Vesemir have a discussion talking about the politics of the world, the first time we learn any of the goings on in that department, an element of the game which is greatly fleshed out as time goes on. Before Geralt and Vesemir can reach town, however, they're stopped in their tracks for the first minor main quest line. And what better than a hunt for a monster? Witchers being the monster hunters of this world, this is exactly their speciality. A griffin prowls the nearby village and countryside. Geralt manages to scare it off and save one of the men attacked, getting our first taste of the finer details in this game. The man we've saved has dialogue with us and allows us to see more information about the attack and about the village itself. This man has his own personality, which is one of many in the world. Every person you talk to feels like their own person with their own anecdotes and tales to share. After being told to visit the inn in White Orchard, Geralt and Vesemir head there in hopes of finding Yennefer. Oh, for fuck's sake. More politics are displayed as you enter the tavern. With White Orchard once being part of Temeria, we have a banner to display those colours. Nilfgaardians are none too happy about that. Politics is a constant theme in this game, and it only becomes deeper as things progress. In an attempt to learn more about Yen, we encounter a man wishing to play Gwent, and this is where we get our first deck. I've always said it's crazy that CD Projekt Red put so much effort as to create an entire trilogy of RPGs just to give context to a card game. It's absolutely crazy work, guys. Sometimes when playing The Witcher 3, I totally forget I'm playing a card game. Okay, but in all seriousness, Gwent is actually incredibly fun and rewarding as a minigame. No wonder it ended up spawning its own game a few years later. Learning the rules is simple, and with the cards you end up collecting later on, it only becomes more complex and fun as time goes on. Obviously, I can't touch on all of it right now, but I mean, we have a whole video to worry about Gwent, and plus, at this point, Gwent wasn't my focus, but don't worry, we'll get there. After talking to quite the suspicious man in the tavern, Hunter wrote him, don't worry, we'll talk about him in the Hearts of Stone video, but I had to acknowledge I knew who he was, otherwise people would bring it up in the comments. He tells us to visit the Nilfgaardian encampment. Now, this is where we get our first real taste of the world. The game takes off the rails it had us on, and finally, I took the liberty of exploring the town and countryside. Upon hopping on Roach and riding through the town, I noticed great little moments, like the characters talking to each other and animals going about their business in the streets. The world they've built truly feels alive, and it's a joy to explore. And the thing is, White Orchard is so different from Velen, and even places in Velen are vastly different from each other, with Novigrad being another end of the spectrum entirely. The world is so diverse and so interesting to just observe as the lone passerby that you are. I headed to the town's notice board, which is the way of collecting contracts and quests in this game. I ended up finding 2 contracts, someone missing a brother and a monster preying on people nearby. I added both to my quest log before stopping by a marker for a quest. A dwarf needing a hand. Someone set fire to his forge. A minor story, but one that I feel shows the details in this game. You follow a trail left by the man you believe set fire to this forge. Upon finding the arsonist, he'll try to bribe you. If you agree, you can let him go and receive payment. However, if you choose not to, then this will fork off into 2 other possibilities. Use Axii, a spell for calming men's minds to make him come willingly, or fight him and take him by force. In taking him back to the blacksmith, the Nilfgaardian soldiers will come over and take him away to be hanged. It's a harsh punishment, and in doing so, Geralt can comment on how the villagers' perception of the dwarf could change for the worse, but it's no difference to Geralt. Now being able to receive a discount from our dwarven smith in White Orchard, and all of that from a minor side quest you can stumble across. It's genuinely mind-boggling how much depth is put into things like this. You get an interesting plot with multiple branching paths, a moral dilemma, interesting information about the politics of this town, and the reward in the form of a discount at the end. It makes it worth your while for the experience and the reward, and it goes to show the sort of thing they do with each and every quest in this game. I pushed on with my other contracts to make some money and gain some XP, finding a man's brother, which went from searching a battlefield to learning of an unlikely friendship between Temerian and Nilfgaardian soldiers. Following that, I asked about the contract for the Wraith that had been tormenting the folk in the area, giving me my first experience of monster hunting. Searching the area, determining what type of monster it is, a Noon Wraith in this instance, and then using the information to lure it out and finally kill it, using its particular weaknesses against it. The whole search tells a story of who this woman was, what happened to her, and the tragedy that it was. Every contract isn't a matter of go here, kill this, but of a story, of an experience, and that adds to every single thing that you do. I opted upon receiving my reward to allow the man to keep it for his daughter. Although I knew it wouldn't matter and it's just a game, I felt like this was a person and I wanted to do the right thing. there will be other opportunities for coin, and I didn't need to take this man's right now. And that's the sort of thing that RPGs should strive for. All of these experiences, all of these stories and minor characters were people I felt things for, whether that be pity for the man I accidentally sentenced to hang, or empathy for the man who wanted to pay all of his savings for the work that I'd done. Emotion is important, and in immersing a player in the tasks they're completing, it's utterly paramount. There were then some other things I did here and there, but it was time to get back on the trail of Yen and talk to the Black Ones at their outpost. This leads to having to take out a griffin in exchange for information. After a while of collecting things I needed for bait and tracking the griffin, I gather the information I need and return to Vesemir to begin the kill. Geralt and Vesemir wait for the griffin to attack, leaving a fake sheep in the field as bait. This is also where you receive your crossbow, allowing you to shoot enemies to the ground and getting closer with your sword. As the griffin attacks, you're thrown into a battle against the beast. I remember playing this for the first time, and it truly was a marvelous fight. This beast is large and terrifying. You must remember to time your dodges and use Quen to shield yourself, use food to heal when necessary. Finally, you chip away at the beast's health until you take it down. To collect your trophy, you return to the Nilfgaardian outpost to get your information about Yennefer. Geralt is told that Yen was headed for Vizima, and so it's time to head back to Vesemir to prepare for departure. Before you're about to leave, shit kicks off in the tavern though. Geralt and Vesemir spring to action to defend the people of the tavern, killing everyone causing trouble and attacking the owners of the establishment. In doing so, they're not thanked, however. They're asked to leave and branded murderers, showing this is no normal fantasy story, and Geralt isn't seen as a hero. Witchers aren't seen as heroes, they're freaks and outcasts to the people, no matter how noble their intentions are. Geralt and Vesemir leave, and enter Yennefer of Vengerberg, our first proper introduction to this character in the games, outside of Geralt's dream. We're quickly told to come with her to Vizima, as we're to meet with the Nilfgaardian Emperor Emir var Emrys about an important matter. During the ride there, we get our first hints that the Wild Hunt has major business with Geralt of Rivia. Their escort is attacked, and Yen and Geralt head full speed to the Palace of Vizima. Once in the palace, we have a great build-up to the meeting of Emir. Geralt put into high society is always incredibly amusing to experience, making him shave, wear a doublet, forcing him to partake in the pleasantries of the lords and ladies of the world is always a good laugh, as Geralt is not built for any of it. Geralt enters Emir's chamber and is told that Ciri, the daughter of Emir, Geralt's ward and someone he viewed as his daughter, has returned after years and years of being away. She's back and she's pursued by the Wild Hunt for her blood, Elder Blood, something incredibly valuable and something that makes her incredibly desired. Emir tells Geralt of the details, explains his task, and that he wants her returned to him. Of course, this is up to Ciri. Geralt was never going to force her to do anything. Talking to Yennefer, she informs him of two major leads to follow up, one in Velen and another in Novigrad. Yen would head to Skellige to see if there was anything more she might find there, and there to meet after. And so we have our quest. As Geralt, we head to Velen and follow the footsteps of Cirilla, Fiona, Helen, Rhiannon. Entering this vast open world for the first time feels overwhelming, but in a good way. The Velen ambient music begins to play, and you're let loose to your own devices. Geralt needs to find an informant to find more information about Ciri's whereabouts and the Wild Hunt. But of course I didn't do that right away. I headed to the nearest town and checked the notice board for contracts and jobs. As a witcher I have to worry about my coin as much as the main quest. How else will I have the best gear for fighting monsters? I took the job and stored it in my quest log for later. Whilst continuing on to the inn at the crossroads, I stumbled across a priest of the Eternal Fire with a quest marker, so I spoke to him. The quests you can pick up on the side of the roads and towns usually are smaller tasks that don't require a great deal of work. This one, for instance, had a priest who needed me to burn bodies left at mass graves on the battlefields, which of course I did as he was offering coin for a reward. I visited each area and set fire to them in turn. However, at the final one we find the priest hadn't been entirely honest. The priest had scammed a Fistech merchant and was using Geralt to clean up the mess. Returning to the priest and confronting him on what we just discovered, he saw us as another loose end. One outcome would cause for you to fight him and kill him and his guards. However, I decided merely to take the bribe. I didn't feel like murdering people and I could use the money. And that was really my first taste of Velen. In going from pyre to pyre, there was a lot of the world to be seen. Trees, fields, bodies on the battlefields not yet cleaned up, the poor living in decrepit villages. There's a real dirty feeling about Velen, a place where you can feel the danger, and the vibe is eerily peaceful, if that makes sense. Afterwards, I decided to make my way to the inn at the crossroads and find the information Geralt was after. Upon arriving at the inn and asking questions, Geralt is hounded by men who have entered the tavern.
Brave warrior, looks like. Got 2 swords, see?
Oi, great boy. What's the point of having 2 swords?
Wonder if he keeps an extra prick in his trousers too.
You fucking deaf. Gonna say who you are? Or do I need to loosen your tongue with me knife?
I'm a witcher. Heard you wondering about my swords. Well, one's for monsters, the other for humans. Only got one prick, though, in case you're wondering about that too.
Don't touch him. Don't even look at him. Worse than lepers, that lot.
Saw one in action once. Killed a half dozen. Blood everywhere. Freak didn't even show a drop of sweat.
Got the stench of corpses on him.
Scenes like this truly build out and emphasize the world that we're in. It's not too kind to witches like Geralt. Geralt learns that the informant Hendrik is in Heatherton, and we're to go and investigate. One rabid dog fight later, and the man, the sole survivor of this town, tells us what happened. He begins to tell us a story of the Wild Hunt and their attack on this town.
The sun was waning, see, and the dusk went crimson like blood. Thought to myself, strange, the toads, I cannot hear them. Save terror through and through. Hendrik screamed. Then he begged. By the end, he could do naught but moan.
Great.
Investigating Hendrik's hut, we find his corpse, a key hidden in his boot that opens a special hidden door to a cellar. Hendrik had been tracking Ciri, and he left all the recent sightings in his ledger. After investigating, we have new leads.
Drunken swine. So-called Baron hosted subject at his castle, or should I say, illegally appropriated fort. Reason unknown. Talked to Baron at Crow's Perch. Clashed with a witch. Subject landed in swamp. Encountered a witch. Conflict ensued. Cause unknown. Find the witch. Talk to the peasantry. Village of Midcopse. My only leads, the Baron and some witch. Damn.
The Bloody Baron and a witch living nearby Midcopse. Not much to go off, but worth sniffing around to see what we can find. Now, upon leaving, I have my quests. We knew what to do. I think, however, here it's worth delving into some of the basic mechanics, as combat is one that will come up a lot. It's relatively simple as a system, however, it's a system that works exceedingly well. I've seen a lot of people talk some shit about the combat system, and I'm going to be honest with you, I've never understood that. You've got your dodges, your long dodges for evading different attacks, you've got blocks and parries for human enemy, and then you've got your different signs. Combine that with your use of potions and oils, and the system becomes a lot more complex. Remembering when to dodge and when to attack with particular enemies, every monster encounter becomes its own mini boss fight, and that's only accentuated when playing on Death March. On top of that, it looks flashy too, with limbs flying off and monsters being cut in half. I genuinely really enjoy fighting in The Witcher 3. The combat is thoughtful, yet not too complex, whilst also being incredibly fun to look at, and that's my take on the matter. The biggest issue I have with this game is probably movement. Riding Roach isn't too bad unless you're getting stuck on shit all the time, and running is fine too. It's more the precise and sensitive movements that are an issue. Moving ever so slightly to pick up loot, sometimes making the correct jump to a ledge, it can be irritating as hell. And I think a game like this that's grounded and immersive should probably allow you to walk. I know the PC version has a toggle walking speed, but I feel they should be built into the game. It's nice just to walk through cities and towns, taking it all in rather than just sprinting your way through like a madman. And whilst we're here, let's talk a little bit about the leveling system. It's very well placed across the game and it doesn't happen too quick, but it's also not too slow. Because I was doing everything as I came across it, I always felt that I was somewhat over leveled, but honestly for the most part, it always felt right, which was really nice. By leveling or finding places of power, you'll get skill points which you can use to buy and upgrade skills. You can only have a few equipped at once, however, so you might have to switch them out depending on the task, which again makes perk management thoughtful rather than mindless. Anyways, I went off to play some more Gwent, and I beat a poor blacksmith who was desperately trying to feed his children. I took his money because I'm a piece of shit. Back to the main quest though, I decided it was time to track down the lead of the village witch. After doing some investigating around Midcopse, I learned that she lived in the woods. Riding out that way, who do we stumble across but Ciri Metz, a sorceress of the Lodge. This being her first appearance in the games, however, she was quite a relevant character in the novels. This questline sends us down a rabbit hole after talking to Ciri about Ciri and our search, and learning of her hiding from Radovid, the king of Redania, who's ruthlessly hunting down the mages of the Lodge. She tells of an elven sage that came to her some time ago asking about Ciri, saying they were to meet up in Velen. Learning of this elven sage's hideout, Geralt and Ciri head there together. Upon entering the elven ruins, however, it's clear they aren't alone. The wild hunt is here, and so traversing these elven ruins immediately becomes more dangerous. Navigating ruins such as these is always an incredibly fun segment of the game, as layouts are always new, puzzles change the pacing, and enemies feel dangerous and unpredictable, and the narrative carries it. Learning more about Ciri's predicament, as well as the mysterious elven sage and what he could have wanted with Ciri. After traversing countless puzzles and corridors, fighting enemies and so on, we reach the final room. A wild hunt rider named Nithral is waiting for us, and so begins our first true boss fight. This is the sort of battle where the combat system really shines. I wasn't super over leveled, and so fighting him felt like a true challenge. I had to make sure to memorize the attacks as so to not get caught in his swings, also remembering where his openings were so that I could retaliate and deal some damage. That coupled with remembering to heal and cast Quen to protect myself meant that you're always on your toes. As well, this boss fight comes with a gimmick, as do most. Nithral opens portals to allow wild hunt dogs to come through and fight you whilst he heals. You must take down the dogs to be able to once again chip away at his health. It's a battle of skill and timing, but also endurance, and it makes for a great fight. Once he's down, we can then proceed into the elven mage's hideout. And when in the hideout, we find a message for Ciri.
Ciri, this place is no longer safe. Do not tarry here long. Trust no one, and above all, beware the witches of Crookback Bog. Try to reach the place where last we were together.
Where last we were together, not much to go on.
After learning this, there are a lot more questions than answers, but it does point us in a new direction, to the Witches of Crookback Bog, the Ladies of the Wood. Getting some background info on the ladies and gaining the Eye of Nahalani to dispel illusions, we leave the cave, but not before helping Ciri with her own little mini-quest, which opens up many more doors for us. Also, gaining the lamp from this side quest allows us to use it in other quests too. Ciri asks for a favour, and of course, how could I say no? This opens up plenty more quests, but I save those for later. For now, I wanted to talk to the Baron, the self-appointed ruler of Velen. Making my way there in the rain and the mud was another immersive journey. After being in that cave for so long though, I really needed it. A nice ride on roach across the open countryside felt freeing. Upon reaching Crow's Perch, the home of the Baron, it's clear this fortress is very makeshift, and walking the rickety wooden path feels grounded, and it feels clear this location is a major one despite the makeshift nature of it. And something I noticed, which I began to notice much more after this moment, that a lot of games don't do, is they use distinct musical triggers. Once I passed the threshold into Crow's Perch, the music immediately made the entrance feel grand, like I was entering somewhere of importance. This town is dirty, it's falling apart, the people are making do with what they have, and atop the hill, we have the fort where the Baron resides. I entered the gates and was led up to the Baron, collecting a few contracts from the notice board on my way. This whole section, from riding up to Crow's Perch to being stood in front of the Baron himself, is the perfect display of an open world feeling scripted and blending those two things together. Upon talking to the Baron, he knows exactly why we've come, and he has information about Ciri.
I know who you are. Believe I also know why you've come. We'll talk inside.
As he begins to tell the story, we're treated to a cutscene showing the events as he describes them, bringing them to life. Before long, the Baron's voice is gone and we're experiencing these events through Ciri's eyes as we take control of her. The decision to allow us to see Ciri's journey jumbled up and out of order was a brilliant decision. For one, we're allowed to become closer to a character that before now we've only heard of, so that eventually if Geralt does find Ciri, we have the same connection that he does. But also, in telling the story out of order, we get this frantic nature that Geralt feels. All this information is jumbled and he himself, and we as the player, have to figure out which fits where and what happened after what. Not to mention, these segments are often fun set pieces with vastly different gameplay to that of Geralt. Ciri has the same basic moves, but instead of signs, she has abilities that we can use as the game progresses. At this point, we see Ciri's ability for teleportation, which she uses to travel incredibly quick. This is in place of the dodge move and is much more fitting with her character. Ciri saves a little girl from the wolves and is told of a wolf king which attacked her. Of course, not a regular wolf. And so it becomes a mini Witcher contract for Ciri, searching the area just as Geralt would, clearly things she learned from him and Vesemir at Kaer Morhen. Knowing it's likely a werewolf, Ciri collects the necessary ingredients to create an oil which will swiftly take care of the werewolf. Once taking it down, the men in the cave are men of the Baron who will take her and the little girl to see him. The Baron fed them and agreed to give them a place to stay. Once the story was oh fuck me, how long was that story? Look at Geralt's beard, it's grown another inch. Jesus, he must have really set the scene. The Baron, however, is looking for his family who've gone missing. He won't give us any more information about Ciri until we do something for him, as is the way of the world. The Baron says his family vanished. He woke up one morning to find them gone. It's our job to find them, and so begins our dive into family matters, one of the longest and well thought out quests in the game. I mean, all major quests have that much care, but this is just one of those. After learning all the information we can from the Baron, we set off to find them. However, I didn't do that right away. There were plenty of things that needed to be tended to before that. I mean, I'm a Witcher, there's always work that requires your attention. I killed a nearby monster that the people were calling a Shrieker, luring it out of its cave and confronted it on the field to get my reward. Plenty of Gwent was played as well. I love Gwent so very much, gotta collect all those cards and beat some of the major players in Velen. Of course, not the most sensible thing to do whilst tracking someone down that you care about who's being pursued by the Wild Hunt, but we gotta have some downtime somewhere, right? Also did some horse races to win some rewards and kit out my boy Roach. Can't be hoarding all the loot for myself. Roach deserves some new saddles and blinders too. I also got caught up in a love triangle involving a werewolf. Quests in this game have so many diverse narratives and it just sucks you in every single time. It was never a chore to explore and do these additional activities. It was a joy and I actively wanted to seek them out. I didn't want to feel there was someone I wasn't helping or an experience that I'd missed. Back to the matter at hand, however, I followed up on the leads for the Baron. After speaking to the Peller and finding his goat, I was able to learn more. The Baron's wife miscarried, a detail the Baron had neglected to mention. We also discovered that he has a fondness for alcohol and is often drunk and foul-tempered. Geralt decides, not being told the whole truth, to return to the Baron for more information and confront him on what he'd learned. Upon arriving, however, it's clear not all is well. The barn in Crow's Perch is on fire. In a quick turn of events, Geralt must decide whether to save someone's brother from the barn, which, of course I did, I'm not fucking heartless, and then speak to the Baron about what had happened. The barn caught fire because the Baron was drunk, and Geralt confronts him.
Ha 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 ha! We've a hero in our midst! You've earned yourself a barrel of Lyrian!
I know your wife miscarried. Was that before or after you beat her to a pulp?
What the fuck are you suggesting?
Don't play me for a fool. You'd been beating them for years. Finally, they'd had enough and fled. Sound about right?
Geralt fights the Baron to knock some sense into him. It's not like a drunk old fat Baron is exactly a match for a Witcher. Heading back into the Baron's quarters, Geralt demands to be told the whole truth. And after all, how are we meant to help find them if we don't know the details? Here we discover so much backstory, so much depth to this character in the Baron. Depth that you won't see in some games for their entire length, but The Witcher takes time to give depth to a character who is really only minor in the grand scheme of things. We learn of his past, he didn't always treat them right, and he knew they'd run away. Geralt asks for the full truth of their relationship to better understand the Baron and to help.
All right, I'm all ears. Tell me what happened. The truth this time.
I'd been soaking myself 3 days straight. Anna came to me, said they were leaving. I begged them to stay. She refused to hear it. I tried to stop her. She wriggled like an eel. We struggled. She fell. Last blasted thing I remember. Woke up in the morn, breeches heavy with my own piss. A large bump on my head. Sadly, they were gone. Know what that's like, Witcher? No. How the fuck could you? I was left with nothing. Nothing! Only the bottle.
What happened next?
Next, it only got worse. I awoke at sunset, not knowing how many days had passed. Thought it was all a ploughing, drunken nightmare. And then I went to the bedchamber, but Anna was not there. Instead, there was blood everywhere. I knew she'd miscarried. My breath short, my throat locked. I neared the bed and saw it. It lay there, a tiny thing, defenseless, on bloodied sheets, dead. And it was my doing.
Seen a lot of dead in my time, but that must have been hard.
Unspeakably so. My legs gave out. I saw fields of corpses at Sodden. Saw witches burn in Maribor. But compared to this, all that was a rabbit's prick alongside a great oak. And the guilt is all mine.
Learning of Anna's unborn child, Geralt surmises that it became a botchling. Finding it and lifting the curse should be able to help find the Baron's family, so that's exactly what my next task was. We went and dug up the buried botchling and took it back to the fort with some difficulty. Burying it under the threshold should be able to lift the curse and lead us to the Baron's family. Geralt instructs the Baron as to how, and then he waits. Finally, the Lubberkin rises from the ground and leads Geralt on a path out of the fort's grounds and eventually to a hut in the marshland. Talking to the people inside, we learn that this family helped Anna and Tamara when they fled from the Baron. Anna was dragged off into the swamp by some sort of creature whilst Tamara continued on to Oxenfurt, which gives us our next task. Reporting to the Baron on the fate of Anna, or as much as we know so far, but also heading to Oxenfurt to see if we can't find his daughter Tamara. First thing I decided to do, however, was head back to Crow's Perch to tell the Baron of our discovery. Upon entering, however, I was greeted by someone very happy to see me, the man I'd saved from the burning barn.
Remember me?
Stable hand pulled you out of the fire.
We'll never forget that. Here, I'm grateful.
A lot of games would have treated that as mission complete, but in The Witcher they allow it to be brought up again when you re-enter Crow's Perch. Just little details like this make the game so much more deep. Upon returning to the Baron, we give him the information that Tamara is in Oxenfurt. He insists that we go ourselves to ensure that she's safe, which I agreed to do. I'll be going towards Oxenfurt anyway at some point. He also gave us a pass to enter Oxenfurt, which is greatly helpful. Telling him about Anna too prompted him to demand that we close in on her trail and locate her pretty urgently. However, we have at this stage earned more information about Ciri, the woman that we're chasing.
When Ciri was on the mend, we took her out on a hunt. Thought a bit of galloping would warm up her limbs, gone stiff from so much bed rest.
Jumping into another flashback, we see Ciri is safe and having banter with the men at Crow's Perch. We learn some more about Ciri's history at Kaer Morhen, which is always nice. One of the men accuses women of not being able to ride horses as well as men, and Ciri being Ciri, she can't resist a challenge, and so a wager is made, and Ciri plans to race the Baron in the morning.
A woman could swing a sword. I've knowed one. But never seen a lady mount anything but a cock proper. All tipsy on horseback. Nothing strange on account they bloody mount them sideways.
Perhaps you'd care to wager?
Think you can outrun me on an horse? Naturally. What's the stake?
Black mare. The one in the stable.
Oh, that won't do it all.
What happened? You get the jitters?
No.
So why not?
The horse is mine.
To race the Baron himself. I'd consider it an honor.
Morning comes and the race is on. Of course Ciri wins easily. I mean, I'm sure you can lose if you want, but I didn't want to. Before anyone can celebrate, however, a griffin disrupts their fun, swooping towards them. This is where the Baron ends this part of the story. Promises to tell us more once we find his wife. And so, we're back to the drawing board. With no more leads to find Anna, our only bet is to follow up on any other leads we have in Velen. Before following up on the Ladies of the Wood, however, I took a detour to collect contracts from signposts around Velen, and in doing so visited the Nilfgaardian outpost towards the south of the map. I'd never actually ventured this far south in my original playthrough, so this was all new to me. Felt very much the same vibe as The Witcher 2, with the music changing as you enter this area as well. I picked up a few quests here, did a few deeds, although nothing greatly noteworthy that needs a lot of description. It was interesting speaking to the people that aren't from here. Nilfgaardians are totally different to the people that live in what is Temeria, and have a different way of living and thinking, and so seeing these people in this land and being able to converse with them was something that was very interesting, especially being able to ask about military advancements and plans to keep up to date with politics on their side. Talking of The Witcher 2, the next quest I undertook was very much a joy to play, as I never had the opportunity on my previous playthrough due to my outcome of my original Witcher 2 save. The quest, The Fall of the House of Rearden, in which we talk to a woman called Dolores who says there were monsters in her manor. She gives us the key and we go ahead to investigate. Upon getting there, however, the monsters appear to be dead. There are traps set up all over the property. Something's not quite right. Once entering the barn and climbing up to the next level, we find none other than Letho of Gullith.
Bravo, Geralt. Avoided all my traps.
Letho?
Yeah, didn't expect to see you either. You one of them?
Who's them?
To the Emperor, mercenaries. To themselves, bounty hunters. To me, ordinary sons of bitches.
He's been hiding from somebody. Mercenaries. Letho was essentially the main antagonist of The Witcher 2, and I actually killed him at the end of my original playthrough, so when I linked my save, I unfortunately lost the ability to play that quest in The Witcher 3. This time, however, simulating a Witcher 2 save, I chose that I spared Letho, meaning I could play this quest. I decided to join Letho on what appears to be a mission of revenge. Men hired by the Emperor are after him ever since he left Loch Muin at the end of The Witcher 2. After a long trail following Letho taking revenge on men who betrayed him, we reach the men that are trying to kill him. Letho faces them alone and appears to be killed. I say appears because he was faking it, but I didn't realise. The point was so that he could fake his death and the Emperor would then leave him alone thinking he was dead. Sadly, I didn't realise this and decided to kill the men who attempted to kill Letho. After waking up, Letho isn't too happy that I got involved, and understandably so, but this does allow me to send him off to Kaer Morhen to wait it out, allowing him to become part of a major quest in Act 2 of the game. I didn't even realise it at this point, but a random side quest changed part of a quest later down the line, and that's honestly really fucking cool. After this, I spent a great deal of time wrapping up a ton of contracts and side quests, taking out some monsters here, playing a spell of Gwent there, and everything in between. Even took part in the fighting tournaments in Velen to prove I'm a true gamer. Once done, it was time to return to my main task, and this took me to Oxenfurt. Did some bits and pieces on the way, but finally reached the city gate. I gave my soldier my pass and proceeded past the portcullis into the city. The music in Oxenfurt is this gorgeous, calming piece. It doesn't feel as rugged as the country of Velen. There's a hint of underlying mystery there though, but mostly it's very serene. I decided before continuing with my task to take a trip to the barber's. Usually I grow out Geralt's beard, but since this was my first time in the city, why not get a trim? Look a bit more put together. Now was the time to speak with Tamara. Finding her was easy, but she didn't at all want to return to the Baron, understandably. She tells her version of events, the Baron beating her mother and for not caring for either of them slightly. These events are so nuanced, because I began to genuinely feel sympathy for the Baron hearing his side of things, but hearing Tamara's side really reminded me that he's a terrible person. The way they give different sides of the stories, in turn give more depth to these characters, and it's masterful. We also learn from Tamara in more detail what happened to Anna. Not much to go on, but maybe helpful. Tamara plans to try and find Anna on her own with help of the Church of the Eternal Fire, which could cause complications for us. After leaving her, I played some more Gwent here and there, needed to play some more innkeeps in Oxenfurt, and then I helped a rock troll paint his home, which was nice. Then I travelled back to Crow's Perch to inform the Baron of the news. He obviously wasn't too happy, but accepted it nonetheless. My next task was to follow up on the final lead I had in Velen, the Crones of Crookback Bog. Following the trail of treats, I came to a collection of huts in the swamp. A few kids and an old woman. She wouldn't tell me anything, but it was clear perhaps a certain Johnny would. Something or someone that lived in the swamp. I had to get the kids to help me lure the woman away so I could speak to one of the kids, but it worked and I had another lead. Finding Johnny was easy, tracking him out in the swamp. Johnny was a godling, but strangely had lost his voice, likely by a curse. Luckily, I'd already found the item he was looking for to restore his voice, so I gave it to him and his voice returned. Annoyingly enough.
Whiskey! Slither! Ringworm! Rubbish! Bumblebee! Flabbergasted! Ha! The sound of it!
Johnny tells us that he's seen Ciri. She appeared in the swamp out of a flash of light and ran off towards the orphanage, which we just came from. With Johnny, he can convince this woman, known as Gran, to tell us more about Ciri. Johnny manages to convince her, and she takes us to see the Ladies of the Wood.
I'm looking for the woman with ashen hair. I know you met her. Where is she?
Oh, he's impatient. Perhaps he only likes ashen-haired girls.
The young woman. She's my daughter by choice. I raised her.
If she's shapely, what does it matter?
Matters to me.
I believe we've hit a nerve. She's bubbling like well-fed yeast.
Long story short, they tell us of a dark power which has appeared near Downwarren, a nearby village. It's our mission to head there and fix the problem in exchange for information about Cirilla, giving us a dagger to give to the Elderman and saying he'll understand. Once we reach this small town, the Elderman tells us of this darkness that has taken over their village and that it comes from a tree on the Whispering Hillock. And so that's exactly where I went. Outside the tree there was a werewolf, which did prove somewhat of a challenge, but I dispatched him pretty quickly and moved inside the cave underneath the tree to find, I guess, the heart of the tree? This tree tells Geralt that it was bound to the tree, imprisoned by the crones. And now we have a choice: lift the curse, or kill the heart of the tree. Now this is a major choice in the game. Obviously you're not supposed to know that when you're playing the game, but since it was my second run through I had a bit more awareness. In killing the spirit, you condemn the children of the orphanage to be killed by the crones. However, in saving the spirit, it will help the children of the bog to escape, yet the old woman will be punished. And later on we discover this old woman is the Baron's wife, Anna, kept by the crones to serve them. The punishment she'd receive would turn her into a water hag, and therefore the Baron's fate would be suicide by hanging. So it's either have the Baron's family in absolute ruin but save these kids, or sacrifice the kids and have the Baron's outcome be that of a happy ending. I decided to kill the spirit, which means the kids in the bog would die. However, Anna is saved, as is the Baron, which I feel is the better outcome of the two. In returning to the crones, they reveal themselves to us, and I'm gonna be real, they maybe have the most disgusting character designs I have ever seen. I know that's the point, but honestly, they make me feel physically ill to look at, which I say would be a good thing because I think that was the intention. Geralt now discovers that the old woman in the swamp is Anna, the Baron's wife, and that means we have new information for the Baron himself. The crones, however, have information for us with regards to the whereabouts of Ciri. Ciri landed in the swamp. The crones took her in and wanted to use her blood. Ciri managed to escape directly in pursuit from the wild hunt. This leads directly into the first Ciri quest we played before, her helping the little girl, defeating the werewolf, so it's not really new information we didn't already know, but it's nice to piece the story together. We return to the Baron and explain what we've learned. He tells a story about how he was cucked out, which is kind of funny.
But the woman cuckolded me for years.
Sorry, mate. And then he gives us the rest of the story about Ciri. The Griffin attacked and grabbed the Baron, taking him to the top of a tower. Ciri followed, using her powers to save the Baron, but this also meant the Wild Hunt wouldn't be too far behind. Ciri kills the Griffin in pretty spectacular fashion and saves the Baron's life. Needing to leave quickly due to her pursuers, the Baron helps Ciri with a horse, supplies and money, and sends her on her way to the city of Novigrad to find her friend, a mage called Triss. Once the Baron has finished talking, a strange creature bursts into the room, not like anything Geralt has seen. Not a monster, but something new. The Baron says its name is Uma, and he won him playing cards. Seems irrelevant, but definitely strange. And with that, it concludes the main quest line in Velen. Our path is clear in terms of our hunt for Ciri, but not all is concluded in Velen. There are still two things we must do. For a start, I couldn't in good conscience leave Anna behind in the swamp. I had to help the Baron, and secondly, I needed to follow up with Kira, as she seemed to need my help. I went to the bog with the Baron and his men ready for a fight. Tamara showed up with witch hunters. Although annoying, they ended up being a help in the fight. The crones seemed to have left, but Anna was here, and she'd somewhat lost her mind.
Oi! Get back, stinky head. Gingerbread loaf, freshly baked and hot.
Mother.
Clean as a whistle, fresh as a daisy. Go on, whip me. I made it too little. I nibbled it, but just to see if it's firm. But it's fresh, so take pity.
Oh, Mother.
Take pity.
Taking her outside, the beast that attacked and took Anna in the first place has returned, a fiend. It's our job to take it down. A pretty average boss fight, nothing too crazy, but a bit of fun to fight this large beast nonetheless. After taking it down, the matter of Anna still remains. Tamara suggests a curse, but Geralt knows better. This woman has simply been through too much. Her mind couldn't take it. This is a simple case of someone's mental health being near irreparable. Honestly, quite a tragic story. The Baron, however, believes there is hope, to take Anna to a hermit that lives in the Blue Mountains. Potentially, this man has the ability to heal her, help her improve her mental state. And with that, the Baron's quest line is completely rounded off.
Witchers were made to kill monsters. It doesn't matter who posted the notice. The coin has to be right, that's all. Witchers don't debate. Their conscience plays no part. They just get on with it, then pick up the coin pouch tossed at their feet and set off on their way. Folk don't expect witchers to save them from themselves.
Now all that remained was a certain invitation from Ciri Metz. Now this quest is very interesting. A tower full of mice. Navigating our way to Fyke Isle, we used the lantern Ciri took from Elven ruins in order to uncover a story that happened there a time ago. The tower was attacked and the royalty that lived there was slaughtered. The women raped. It's eerie, it's interesting, and it's so well put together and unique. What we're looking for, however, is a laboratory, where a mage was doing tests on rats to try and cure the Catriona plague. Supposedly, there's a curse on this island that Ciri needs us to take care of. We find a ghost in the tower, but not one of the projections, a spirit. The one holding the curse on the island. She was given a potion by a mage which paralyzed her, although it was meant to only be for a time and it was supposed to trick the peasants who attacked the tower into thinking she'd killed herself so they'd leave. Except something went wrong. She awoke and was still paralyzed and the rats ate her alive. A pretty horrific way to go out. The only way to lift the curse, Geralt decides, is to deliver the remains to our old lover Graham, which is the quest path I chose. However, there are multiple. In doing so, after Geralt leaves, she reveals herself to be a pester, and even though Graham is now dead, Annabelle is now free. Having the curse lifted, Geralt returns to Ciri to tell her what has happened, and is presented with another job, to find supplies that should have arrived a few days ago, meaning the wagon was either attacked or lost in the woods. It's an easy enough quest. I went off, found the items, and brought them back to Ciri. This then leads to our first romance quest, which, I'm going to be real, I started this save and had it in my head that I was going to be loyal to Yen the entire time, purely because I feel that's the sort of thing Geralt would do, especially after regaining his memory, but I sort of fucked it. I mean her. Well, that's not actually what I meant. I mean I fucked the quest, but I did indeed fuck her. So I'm sorry, Yen. Deeply, this was an oversight and was a lapse in judgment, especially since she tricks you anyway and fucks off to Fyke Isle. And of course, after waking up, we follow her. Ciri is being pursued by Radovid and feels that if she delivers the notes and proves she can cure the Catriona plague, then he'll let her go. But it's never that simple with Radovid. This quest has 3 branching parts. Either you can allow her to take the notes to Radovid, spelling her demise, or you can get in her way and fight her, which ends in Geralt killing her, which is pretty fucked. Or you can opt for the third option, which is the route I chose. I honestly didn't even know you could end up killing her until recently, because my choice, and the way that I've always done it, is to suggest she should go to Kaer Morhen to hide, which not only allows for her to play an important role in the later big quest in Act 2, but also means she won't end up dead, which is always good. We love Ciri, she's great. Ciri agrees and heads through a portal. With all of our main Velen loose ends tied up, it's time to push on with our quest for Ciri, and onwards I rode for Novigrad. Velen to Novigrad is quite the journey, even on horseback. I finished some things in Crow's Perch, then saddled up Roach and headed out for the long ride. Reaching the Pontar crossing, you could see all the people lined up to leave Velen, in this incredibly war-torn region. I walked across the bridge and through the gate, and as I did so, you can hear the full music transition from the music of Velen's dirty and decrepit countryside to somewhere that is full of life, somewhere where the grass is genuinely greener and brighter, sunflowers mixed with daisies in the fields and the sun beating down over the countryside outside the walls of Novigrad.
In a hurry.
Come through.
Before I entered the city, I took some time to pick up some contracts and have a look around the outer villages. I played some Gwent against a halfling and then went on my way toward the central city of the region. Walking beside the river and seeing these huge city walls with towers peering out from behind deep into the city is honestly still breathtaking to this day. After spending so much time around mud and wooden huts and trees, seeing somewhere so metropolitan is truly incredible. Riding through the gates, the music changes again from the sound of the countryside to the theme of Novigrad.
Alright.
You see people everywhere as you enter through what can only be described as the poor district of the city. Beggars on the streets, buildings in poor state, and whores wandering the place. As you move further through the fish market, you can see people selling their wares and bartering with customers, a hub of social and economic interaction. Further from this, we enter the main square, where we find things are not all as they seem in Novigrad.
No evil can survive the holy fire. The holy fire enlightens, burns, and cleanses. Behold the flame of grace and mercy. Special fire for you, freak. Nice, slow burning. You'll beg for mercy in all the voices known to you, like the others of your species. None. I wanted only to live like you. Help me, kind folk, please.
A Doppler!
Mages, non-humans, being burned just for existing. This is Novigrad under the reign of Radovid V. Underneath all of the glitz and glamour of the big city is something far more sinister, but nothing can be done, not by one lowly witcher, as much as Geralt would like to. At least not for now. After the scene in the market square, I decided to head to Vivaldi's bank. Here you can convert the different currencies you find in the world to crowns. Crowns are the currency used in this game, as Radovid owns most of the land and crowns are the currency of Redania. But you can find Nilfgaardian florins and Temerian orens, which can be converted. Finding these currencies just pad out the world and make things feel more alive, feel like there's something outside of the world you inhabit for the purposes of the story. I then fucked the dumb dwarf at Gwent because I'm the best and he's not. I took some time to pick up some contracts and then decided it was time for my first treasure hunt. In The Witcher 3, there are specific types of Witcher gear. You've got wolf, cat, bear, and griffin. In my original playthrough, I went with the wolf gear as Geralt is from the School of the Wolf. On Horsey and Fox, we went with the bear gear, but this time I wanted to go with the cat armor because why not? Also, griffin gear is fucking disgusting, so let's be real, I didn't really have a choice anyway. All these treasure hunts are great fun. For the first stage of the cat gear, I had to find an entrance to a secret cave underneath Temple Isle in Novigrad. Once inside, I had to fight enemies and solve puzzles to find the chamber in which I fought a man named Mad Kian. Reading some of the books, you can discover that Kian was a witcher from the School of the Cat who was abducted by a mage who experimented on him, and that's what we're fighting here. Deep story for an encounter so minor, but that's why this game is the greatest role-playing game of all time. I received my first diagram for the gear, as well as map locations for the next pieces. You essentially continue this treasure hunt across the world, finding one diagram and following a map to the next. Each new location posing a new challenge, whether it be a monster den or a puzzle in a cave. You continue this until you have all of the pieces that you need. Once I had all of the diagrams, I took them back to Crow's Perch to the blacksmith to get them smithed, and I forgot that I wasn't the right level to wear them. The armor was level 17 and I'm level 12 at this stage, so I guess we'll need to wait a bit before we equip this armor. So back to Novigrad, I guess. Returning to Novigrad, I wanted to do some Witcher work before looking for Triss, and so I went after a contract. I found and spoke to a guard for the man who posted the notice. After some investigating, we discover it was likely an Ekimara, a vampire. Following the footprints, we find the Ekimara. However, another Witcher is already here, one of our friends from the School of the Wolf, Lambert, someone who is a major character in the books and appears briefly in the Witcher 1 and Witcher 2 games. Lambert says he has matters to attend to, something we may be able to help him with, but later. He agrees to split the reward, which seems fair, and together we go to collect it. Upon talking to the supervisor to collect our reward, Lambert begins to demand to know where a man named Yad Keridin is.
Where's Yad Keridin? Talk.
Who?
Trust me, Geralt, this is important. There's something I gotta know.
I do not know any Keridin. Take your coin for the before and bugger off, before I lose my temper.
Where's Yad Keridin? Asking you for the last time.
Guards! To the dungeon with them!
Of course, this erupts into a fight and we must fend off the guards whilst Lambert chases the supervisor. Following after him, we find Lambert threatens him to discover the location of Yad, learning of one of his associates known as Vienne. Lambert then murders the man in cold blood. Of course, this is incredibly confusing and Geralt isn't too happy, but Lambert promises to explain everything. They agree to meet again at the Seven Cats Inn just outside of Novigrad. I've got to say that I don't really remember playing this quest before, and so at this stage I was very interested in this minor subplot, so I went there immediately. Oh, actually, I wanted to craft some swords, but I accidentally went into this ex-master swordsmith shop where he now sells dumplings, and yeah, look, this is a story I didn't mean to trigger yet, and it was a big mistake, but long story short, I ended up promising to help him get back to smithing, and I never got back to him for probably 30 hours or more in game, so there's that. Back to Lambert, however, I made it to the Seven Cats Inn, and he explained the whole story To cut a long story short, a band of trained assassins ambushed and killed one of Lambert's Witcher friends, Aiden. The supervisor was one of these assassins. Caridin is the ringleader, so we join him on his quest for revenge to track down the leader and end things. We learn from Vienne that Celise, another of the assassins, runs a brothel in Tretogor, and that Hammond, another lead, is in Pharaoh in Skellige. This erupts into a fight when Lambert wants to kill Vienne, and I wasn't about to stop him. The man wants revenge, and I was here to help him, not hinder him. Plus, she was being an annoying bitch anyway, so I decided it was for the best. Once out, Geralt and Lambert decide to split up. Lambert will follow the lead in Tretogor, and Geralt will do the same in Pharaoh, meeting up at the Nowhere Inn in Novigrad when they return. This essentially led me to a dead end, because I wasn't about to leave for Skellige anytime soon, and so I had to put this quest on the back burner for a time. But I really did love that we had so much time with Lambert, someone who comes into play in a major way later on in the game. I felt a good connection with him and wanting to help him out. Having quests like this for major side characters are always a joy and helped pad out Geralt's journey. After leaving Lambert at the inn, I spent some time clearing up some contracts I had. Fought a Doppler who was stealing, a Wraith here and there, plenty of other little things, followed by a few rounds of Gwent against some innkeepers who were still needing to be thoroughly thrashed by the King of Games. However, it was now time to visit Triss. Actually, continue with the thing that we came to Novigrad to do in the first place. Upon arriving at her house, however, it's been ransacked, and we find two thugs stealing her things. We fight them off, but before I can kill them, they cower and tell me the information I need. Temple guards have been cracking down on mages in the city, and more are being captured and killed, meaning we need to find Triss fast. They tell Geralt to search the Putrid Grove to find her, somewhere only visited by thieves, mages, and non-humans. So we set out to tail a thief, Assassin's Creed style. Upon finding one, I tail him back to where appears to be the entrance to this Putrid Grove. Approaching the door and talking to the man behind it, he confirms it's the Putrid Grove, but to get in I'll need a password or payment. I didn't know the password, and I'm sure I could have found it by talking to a beggar or what have you, but I felt it was easier to throw him some coin and be on my way. Finally entering, we find who we're looking for. Triss Merigold, talking to the King of Beggars.
About time we made something clear, sorceress.
Yes, high time.
Me and my men will manage just fine without the help of you or any other mages. But you, well, without our help, you're sitting ducks for the Temple Guard. Who do I spy?
Geralt?
Hey, Triss.
See you two know each other. See you two know each other well.
Triss needs our assistance, and so we go with her. Talking to Triss again after a while, and after their history in The Witcher 1 and 2, it's nice to see them together again, and there are some nice character moments. Obviously, Triss very much likes Geralt, but now Geralt has his memory back, he only has eyes for Yen, at least in my game. Originally, I did go with Triss when I played this game the first time, and to a lot of people that probably seems blasphemous, but let me explain. I never read the books. I had no idea who Yen was. My only experience was with Triss and her connection to Geralt, which has grown over the course of the first two games. And so going into this game, I had no reason to have Geralt fall in love with a character I didn't know, and so I went with Triss. She also has red hair, and so that might have been my downfall also a little bit. But back on topic, Triss needs a bag of supplies, and long story short, they ended up in a river. So of course we jump in the river to save the bag of supplies and hand them over to Triss so we can complete our job. Drawing out and killing rats causing problems in a warehouse. Once the job is done, we get some nice character moments with Triss and Geralt, trying his best to talk to her, explain his feelings.
I was worried about seeing you again. Doubted it could be pleasant.
We said everything there was to say 6 months ago. I don't want to go back to that.
I'm not going back to it. It's one thing to say something, it's another to actually do it.
We promised to remain friends. I hope nothing will change that. So, tell me how Yen's doing?
How do you know I found her?
You didn't answer my question. How's Yen?
She's fine.
That's good.
Asking about anything specific?
Never mind. I got my answer.
Once the rats are out and their job is complete, the man who hired us turns out to be a traitorous bastard who brought the witch hunters to kill Triss, again reinforcing the state of Novigrad and the politics of this world. We take them out and then the man who hired us cowers in fear. I honestly really wanted to kill him, but Geralt forced him to pay double to keep his life, which in reality makes much more sense and is a much better choice. Triss explained she'd never met with Ciri, and so Ciri clearly never found Triss. However, a local dreamer might be able to help. Corinne Tilly might be able to link Geralt's dreams to Ciri and where she went, again showing that dreams have great importance in this world. Triss has some things to take care of, and so she leaves, asking us to stop by sometime. So that's another side character quest for the bank that honestly just sounds like an invitation to fuck, but I will be loyal to Yen. even if I did fuck Kira Metz, but let's pretend that didn't happen and we're all good. Anyways, the Dreamer. I entered the old house to find Corrine in a state of nightmare. Geralt finds it was brought on by a godling, similar to Johnny in Crookback Bog. We force Sarah to leave. I could have been nicer, but honestly, the stupid pissed me off, so I made her leave using a special mixture of herbs that godlings can't stand. With the godling gone and Corrine now awake, we can go and speak to her about Ciri. We explained the situation, and she told us to meet her at the Golden Sturgeon in the docks of Novigrad. Finally, we're on some sort of trail. Hopefully. This part of the game is super interesting because Geralt answers questions about Ciri and talks about their relationship together. Things that are stories from the books and even things we've seen in the Netflix show, which is fun because it's such recent memory. It's also interesting because we get an insight into integral events in Geralt and Ciri's lives. It's some of the most emotion Geralt shows, as usually he keeps everything very close to his chest. Using all of these moments that Geralt explains, Corrine is able to induce a dream state that should explain where Ciri is. In this dream, we see Dandelion arguing with a swallow, the symbol of Ciri, showing she contacted Dandelion. We then find that someone left Dandelion a brothel in their will, the Rosemary and Thyme, and so that's where we have to go to find Dandelion and Ciri. Except nothing is ever quite that simple.
Next time I'll rip your fucking legs off and shove them up your arse till you've toes for teeth.
Zoltan Chive, a character from the books and the games. It's great to see Geralt and him interacting again and having banter. They've always been a pair I've greatly enjoyed seeing together. After throwing the vagrants out of the empty brothel, we explain our predicament to Zoltan. Zoltan says he has no idea where Dandelion is. He's gone missing. After searching the brothel with Witcher senses, we discover a ledger containing his meetings, specifically with women. Classic Dandelion. Zoltan and Geralt split the list in half and talk to the girls on their half of the list. So we're off to speak to the women Dandelion has written in his ledger. Many interesting moments come from this wild goose chase. From an elf who's constantly changing his appearance to be different people, twin sisters who pretend to be each other and enlist us as their fighting instructor, a noble lady which leads us to join the races at the Vegelbud estate, and many more. The most important part of making a wild goose chase engaging is to make each individual investigation fun and interesting in its own right, which this game does. I enjoyed each of these side quests that take you entirely off the beaten path to meet new people and get involved in situations you otherwise never would have. We do learn one thing of note, however. Dandelion was frequently meeting with another woman who wasn't on the list, a blonde girl from Kovir called Kalanetta. Zoltan knows, however, this woman must be someone called Priscilla.
That makes it clear as crystal. It's Priscilla. Aye. Must be her.
Who's this Priscilla?
A Troberids, like you said. Quite popular of late. Picture Dandelion with a pair of tits and you've got the general idea.
This leads us to one of the most memorable moments in the game. In order to speak to Priscilla, we must go to one of her performances at the Kingfisher Inn in Novigrad. As everyone settles down, Priscilla begins to play. The song she sings is called The Wolven Storm. It tells a tale of Geralt and Yennefer. It's utterly beautiful and conveys so much emotion and narrative in such a fantastic and mesmerizing way. You feel as if you're listening to a story being told and you lose yourself in it. It's truly something magical that captures the journey of the White Wolf.
These scars long have yearned for your tender caress, to bind our fortunes. Damn what the stars are. Rend my heart open, then your love profess. A winding, weaving fate to which we both atone. You flee, my dream come the morning. Your scent, berries tart, lilac sweet. To dream raven locks and twisted, stormy, of violet eyes glistening as you weep. The wolf I will follow into the storm to find your heart, its passion displaced by our ever-growing, hardening into stone. Amidst the cold to hold you in a heated embrace. You flee, my dream come the morning. Your scent, berries tart, lilac sweet. To dream of raven locks and twisted, stormy, of us live as one. Or if by love's blind chance we've been bound, the wish I whispered when it all began, did it forge a love you might never have found? You flee, my dream, come the morning, your scent, berries tart, lilac sweet, to dream of raven locks and twisted stormy, of violet eyes glistening as you weep.
Once her performance is complete, we're able to talk to her about the matter at hand. We learn that the last time Priscilla saw Dandelion, he planned a heist on the vault of one Siggy Reuven. We also learn that Dandelion had a run-in with Whoreson Jr. and Whoreson's men had been after Dandelion ever since. Whoreson being one of the 4 main crime bosses in Novigrad's underworld, the others being Siggy Reuven, Carlo the Cleaver Varese, and the King of Beggars. So it looks like Geralt has to save Dandelion again. And so we need to talk to both Siggy Reuven and Whoreson Jr. to see if we can't lock down where Dandelion is. So to do so, I headed towards the bathhouse owned by this so-called Siggy Reuven, where we discovered that is merely a codename for the one and only Sigismund Dijkstra, a prevalent character in the Witcher books making his first appearance in the games. Geralt joins a meeting between 3 of the city's big 4, Reuven, King of Beggars, and Carlo Varese. Before any discussion get underway, however, Whoreson's men attacks the bathhouse and they have to be fully dealt with beforehand. Once the fight is over, we explain that we're looking for Whoreson, and they are too. Whoreson's giving them trouble, and they have to be rid of him. After talking with Dijkstra, we get some background information, and we're given a few leads as to where we can find Whoreson. We can check his house, his casino, and his fight arena. Of course, I took these leads and ran with them, investigating each location. Oh wait, before I did that, I thrashed Dijkstra at Gwent because he had it fucking coming, the cheeky. Following these leads, I had some more Gwent to play. Beat a few people, won a few cards, all in a day's work. Returning to Dijkstra, however, because I realised that I totally forgot to ask him about Dandelion, he basically says he's got no idea where he is. But if he crossed Whoreson, then he's likely dead, which, let's be real, makes a lot of sense as an observation. And of course, in classic RPG fashion, he needs our help. His vault was robbed, as we already know since Dandelion was involved in the heist, so we agreed to help him recover his stash. After a thorough investigation into the sewers and the bathhouse, we discover a man going by the name of Margrave Henkel was supposedly responsible. Only problem is, Margrave is dead, and therefore, it was an imposter. Interesting. Geralt heads to Henkel's house to investigate, and we find ourselves a hidden door, behind which we find a note for Ciri.
Ciri, Menge is following me. He has seized the treasure. He has Dandelion. You must flee. Footsteps. Not good.
Dijkstra is here with others to ask how the search is going. We tell him that Menge likely has the money. Now at this stage, I made a slight mistake not realising what one of the dialogue options meant. I thought Henkel told me everything was actually like figure of speech, like he searched his house and Henkel told him everything, like, but not really. But it turns out I just straight up lied. I didn't think Geralt would say he faked his death and was alive. It was quite the oversight.
Henkel told me. Old man's alive and well. Faked his own death to escape his creditors.
Strange. I had no idea he was in debt.
He was. And Menge promised to take care of things in exchange for help with the heist. So...
Geralt, how can I put this delicately? Bollocks. If you thought I'd fall for that tale you just pulled out of your arse, you don't know me one bit.
I then also really talked some shit that Triss wasn't too happy about, but honestly I found it hilarious. Geralt just utterly bumbled his way through this conversation like a complete moron.
Lucky I hired a witcher and a sorceress who've been through so much together to get this done.
What's our past got to do with it?
A great deal. Lovers will jump into the abyss for one another. Suits my needs perfectly. Namely, it greatly increases your chances of getting out of the hunter's barracks alive. With my treasure.
Information's out of date. We are not.
Yes, I know. You partied a week after the summit at Loch Muin, in the woods near where the Lixella flows into the Pontar. But you know what they say. Old love never dies.
First love. Now how the hell?
That's my secret, lovebirds. Really must be going. Good luck.
Didn't have to disagree so strongly.
However, now we know Ciri and Dandelion are heavily involved and we have to track them down. Triss asks us to meet her that night, and so the plan is underway to infiltrate the Witch Hunter's barracks. At this stage, however, I went back to investigating Whoreson Jr., as that lead was still left unfinished. Visiting the casino, fight arena, and his house, we found a halfling in the casino being tortured called Rico. He lets us know that Whoreson is in league with the Redanians, which is highly interesting. We let him go so he can escape, and then we head on our way. Telling Dijkstra, he tells us to go and see Vernon Roach, a character I absolutely loved from The Witcher 2, about his information regarding Whoreson and his ties to the Redanian army. Investigating the arena gave us information we already knew about Whoreson's ties to Radovid, and then his hideout gave us nothing of note, as expected. Last thing to do is speak to Roach. Before that, however, after I finally left the gates of Novigrad after a very long time, I took in the country air, rode to a nearby town and collected some contracts, helped them with an issue they've been having with a werewolf, which was a fun little story. I also took some time to complete some more optional locations, as I wanted as much loot and XP as I could possibly get so I could finally switch out my armor for the special cat gear sooner rather than later. Being trapped in the confines of Novigrad for so long, it genuinely felt freeing to take some time to head back to the countryside and just help people with their problems, far from the plotting and politics of the city. Tracked down a Fanta for some dwarves, turned out to be a hound of the Wild Hunt, which was pretty cool, then helped a woman who believed a wolf had been stealing her chickens when in reality it was a group of kids who'd lost their parents due to the war and they just needed food. Just little things again that help pad out this world ridiculously well. It's a joy to experience all of these mini side adventures. I then finally rode for the partisan camp to speak with Vernon Roach, who'd been having some issues with one of his soldiers, a girl called Vess. Trouble for another time. Garrett explains his situation with Whoreson and that he's looking for him, and heard he has similar allies in the Redanian. Roach just so happens to be meeting one of his informants, and so Geralt tags along. The ride to Oxenfurt was nice, the music swelling, the air blowing in the trees. It felt good to not be stuck inside a city for a while. Upon meeting Roach at the bridge, all didn't seem right. When entering this tavern, all that waited inside was the King of Redania himself, Radovid V, the character we've heard so much talk about, the man responsible for the mage killings and the oppression.
Checkmate. They say it's the game of kings. That chess teaches one to think strategically. What a load of rubbish.
Radovid, being the absolute insane person that he is, gives up Whoreson without much questioning. He's got him living in a mansion in Oxenfurt to keep him safe. With Geralt knowing this information, he can easily find and interrogate Whoreson. Of course, none of this information is for free. Radovid needs help from Geralt, a favour he'll collect. Roach also needs our help, however, and far be it from me to turn down a friend, so off we go to meet our boy at his camp. Vess has taken a few men across the river to attack the Black Ones and defend a village that helped Roach's men previously, outside of the orders that were given by Roach, because it causes trouble for the efforts they're attempting to fight for. So we need to go and save Vess, and so we meet Roach at the Hangman's Tree, but it appears we're too late.
It's the village below. Black with Nilfgaardians already. They're preparing to execute folk.
No sign of Vess.
Well, she may be impetuous, but she's not stupid. She's waiting for her moment. Probably attack after dusk once... Shh! What now?
A trio, lightly equipped, sneaking closer. Over there, near the...
Death to the Black Ones!
Help me! Circa!
Looks like we're too late.
We run down into the village, kill the soldiers and help Vess, and then we have the choice to kill a wounded soldier or to let him go. I genuinely found this a hard choice because I felt like it was right to show mercy, but at the same time it's too dangerous to let him go back to his camp, so I decided for the latter. Didn't want any issues with Nilfgaardians and didn't want him to report what he'd seen. With that complete, our quest for Roach was done and we were in his good books, so back it was to finding Whoreson Jr. Finally. I entered Whoreson's mansion in Oxenfurt, ready for him, but what I found was dreadful. This man had tortured and killed whores provided by Radovid, nailed to the walls, hung from the ceiling. This man was a fucking degenerate, and he was going to pay, after he told us what he knew about Ciri. Confronting him, Geralt beats him to the ground, over and over. Whoreson wasn't getting one over on us.
Help me, for fuck's sake!
No one's coming.
Stop!
Junior begins to tell his story, and we're treated to yet another flashback to Ciri and her adventures, this time in Novigrad. This time Ciri is going with Dandelion to save a Doppler called Dudu. He'd been captured by Whoreson, and Ciri confronts Whoreson, who's been waiting for Ciri.
You plan to introduce me to someone interesting? There you are. Good of you to come. I've been waiting for you.
Oh fuck, that's... Right, let's pretend that didn't happen. Ciri makes short work of Whoreson.
An eye for an eye.
And frees Dudu. Her plan was to have Dudu take on the form of Whoreson in order for him to escape while she fights her way out, easily dispatching the men and escaping onto the streets of Novigrad. Of course, Whoreson couldn't have known what came next, as he was passed out upstairs, and so our trail goes dead once again. But we know Ciri made it to Novigrad, and we know Ciri escaped from Whoreson. Only problem is, where did she go next? Of course, we also have the problem of Whoreson Jr., so you have the option here to kill him or let him live, and I was never going to let this piece of shit live.
I told you all I know. Everything.
You hurt the woman I'm looking for. You tortured her friend.
She attacked me. I have a right to defend myself. I beg you. Got what I deserved. Have mercy. Please.
Let me tell you where things stand. I'm looking for this woman because she's like a daughter to me. And that's why I just can't let this go.
No.
Geralt also finds what is known as an elven phylactery. Not entirely sure what it was, but sure it of course belonged to Ciri. Upon leaving the house, Radovid's men are there to greet us. Radovid is ready to claim his favour from Geralt. He wants to track down Philippa Eilhart, one of the sorceresses of the Lodge. Radovid has found her hideout, and it's time for us to go there and see if we can't find Philippa. We're confronted by witch hunters at the entrance, irritating as ever, using our witcher senses inside once navigating some catacombs and puzzles, easy puzzles mind you, with simple uses of art to activate portals. We're able to search her lab. The only thing noteworthy we find is a crystal from a megascope, the piece of equipment sorceresses use to contact one another across long distances, and information that we think she's trying to restore her vision, similar to the character of Vilgefortz from the books. Before we did anything with this information, however, we were finally a high enough level to wear our cat Witcher gear, so I headed back to Crow's Perch to get it crafted. Honestly, the base armor looks pretty funny as Geralt is effectively wearing a vest, but I do like the later stages quite a lot. It's just the base armor is, well, it's not the best now, is it? I then headed to Novigrad to find a swordsmith who could smith me the swords for this gear set, so I had the first set of Witcher gear under my belt. To be honest, it felt pretty good, like I'd made some actual progress gear-wise. I also like that the Witcher gear tends to remain the best. I didn't happen across random swords very often that were way better than what I already had, which is refreshing. I got to keep the gear that I felt was the coolest. I went to find Triss whilst in Novigrad to talk to her about what I'd found. Showed her the Megascope crystal, which Triss was able to tap into with magic to restore a message from Philippa. It seems she was trying to restore her vision, which would make her the second person ever to do it. Not an easy undertaking. She also appears to want to reconvene the Lodge, which is interesting to Triss. I left the crystal with her as Radovid definitely didn't need this information in his hands, and with that, I left to head back to Oxenfurt and discuss my findings with Radovid, and that she's definitely trying to restore her eyesight. And with that, no proof of what I've found, Radovid sent me on my way. Of course with no reward. To be expected, but at least I'd done the right thing. After that, the task was complete. I decided to enter the races at the Vegelbud estate. There was an interesting competition going down and I felt I had to be part of it. Of course, winning all the races and getting some nice gear for my horse. This, however, developed as I received a letter from Carlo Varese, one of the big four, before Whoreson died, holding a race, and he wanted to bet on me to win. It made some sense given that nobody at all can ride a horse very well in this game apart from Geralt. I decided to be part of it and won a ton of gold for doing so, which was a nice bonus. Finally, however, I could go back to Priscilla and tell her what I'd learned. All we know now is that Dudu is somehow involved in this issue. Now then, I entirely forgot Triss asked me to meet her a while ago at night to get into the Witch Hunter's barracks. So like, I hope that she just went there every night and every single time she was disappointed that I wasn't there, because fuck Triss. Finally, I met with her and she told me her plan. For Geralt to pretend that he was capturing her so that we could get close to Menga. A terrible plan, and one that would most likely get Triss captured or killed. But I went along with it anyway because, what else were we going to do? I may have been slightly too protective of Triss during this, however, because, well, I didn't really want to sacrifice her. I do like her after all, so I blew our cover and we had to fight our way through the men, killing Menge in the process. In his office, we find a key to Dijkstra's treasure, although not a location as to where the key unlocks, along with a letter from a spy, someone who may be able to lead us to Dandelion. Geralt and Triss get out of there, but not before burning the place to the ground, which I have to say is quite satisfying. Triss also asks us to come by later as she has something she wants to discuss, which sounds promising, am I right, boys? I mean, no, I am being completely faithful to Yen. Other than Kira, but we don't fucking talk about that. It didn't happen. It was a mistake. We then meet our boy Dijkstra, who we give the key to. Of course, he isn't happy that we have no idea where the vault actually is, but I still got my reward, so got out of that one easily. Told Dijkstra about the spy too, the details of how to arrange a meeting. Dijkstra knows exactly what I'm talking about and fills in the blanks. An abandoned house in Far Corners. So following the instructions on the letter and the location we were told by Dijkstra, we wait for our informant outside of Novigrad in the location specified. Whilst waiting, Triss walks in, told by Dijkstra the information and where to find Geralt. Waiting there, the informant enters the building and the two begin their interrogation. We find out Dandelion is being held in a dungeon beneath Temple Island, that Menge was planning to execute him in Oxenfurt, and the only way to have Dandelion transferred is to have Menge give the orders in person. And with him being dead, that's a pretty difficult task. However, there is Dudu. Problem is, he's in hiding, so it's back to Priscilla to see if she knows how we could lure him out. However, before all of that, Triss has one more thing we need to help her with. A way to get the mages out of Novigrad. Lady Vegelberg wants to donate a sum to help the mages escape. It seems suspicious, but to not follow up a lead like that can mean the mages will surely die. It's worth a look into, and that's why Triss needs Geralt's help. So Geralt goes himself to meet the servant of Lady Vegelberg in the fish market. The witch hunters got wind of this and attacked the servant, Geralt of course fighting them off. Essentially, Lady Vegelberg needs her son, Albert, an alchemist, to be escorted away too, as things are becoming unsafe. Lady Vegelberg wants to hold a ball and have Albert slip away towards the end when everyone is drunk. If Triss can help, then she's willing to pay for their transport to have the mages escape. An opportunity like that can't be passed up, and so Geralt must acquire a mask for them both so they can be identified by the right people, and a doublet to fit in with the lords and ladies to accompany Triss. I also decided at this point to shave my very long beard, as there's no way I could go to one of these balls without looking the part. This quest is also a romance quest for Triss. And don't worry folks, I told her to get fucked. Not literally, she could have taken that the wrong way. I just didn't allow her advances, which, in all honesty, is pretty fucking awkward.
Careful.
Miss Marigold, at last! So sorry we are forced to meet under such incredibly inopportune circumstances.
You can say that again.
I'm all for Yen, and that's just how it is. The party is interesting with lots to see and do. Gwent to play, of course I smashed everyone and moved on when they were broken and in tears. Once the night was over, we helped Vegelbud's son escape, and our job was done, and the coin was acquired. It wasn't the easiest thing in the world, given some witch hunters had snuck into the party to take Albert. Good thing Geralt switched masks, so they were after the wrong guy. And with that, it was off to Novigrad. A job well done. Now for the hard part, getting the mages out of the city itself. After talking with Triss and discussing the meeting location, Geralt and Triss rounded up the stragglers and met at the Kingfisher Inn, using the sewers to get to the docks and out onto the ship that they've hired. Geralt clears the way first so that there's an easy passage, and then they make it to the docks in one piece. The mages can finally flee, and they'll be safe from Radovid. Triss and Geralt share one final moment, and in this moment you can ask Triss to stay, which will be her romance quest complete. But of course, Triss is not the one. We'll be waiting for our girl Yen, and so I bid her farewell with the other mages.
I'll never forget what you did for me. And what we had together.
I'll remember you too. Always with a smile.
Miss Marigold!
Coming! Take care, and give Ciri a kiss from me once you find her.
It's heartfelt, it's moving, and it's a nice character moment. As you can tell, Triss desperately wants Geralt to ask her to stay, but he's just not into her anymore after regaining his memory. Turning now to Dijkstra after the mages have all set sail, tells us of a plot, one he needs our help with. A plot to kill Radovid.
Now get to the point. Why are you telling me this?
Because I want you to help me kill Radovid.
And so we are to meet with Dijkstra at the Passiflora to set up this dangerous plot. And I could hardly say no. Radovid had caused so many problems for so many people that I care about in this game, and he needs to be dealt with. I decided now, however, was time for another detour, looking for the next set of upgrades for the cat gear so that when I hit the correct level of 23, I could wear them right away without having to scavenge across the world. Didn't take me long, only about half an hour, but it was fun and worth my time to do. So with those in my pocket, it was time to move on with my own quests. It was time to do this side mission for Dijkstra, to prepare for the assassination of Radovid. I went to the Passiflora to meet. Upon arriving, Dijkstra was there, waiting in a room upstairs. After beginning to explain the plan, Roach appears. He's also in on the plot. Only by killing Radovid can Temeria be free. We, however, need to help their other contact, who hasn't shown up, and so of course, we do. First talking to another of their contacts at the checkpoints across the Pontar, we find where he was travelling from. We investigate to see if we can find his cart, and lo and behold we do, with tracks leading to a troll's cave. Through a great deal of talking and dialogue trees, we're able to convince the trolls to let him come with us without the need for bloodshed, which is a lot of help. The man we save is Tala, a character from the first Witcher game. He's in on the plot, but won't let us in on the plan. But that's up to them. For now at least. Finally, it was time to head back to Priscilla and tell her about Dudu, and figure out a way to lure him out. This part of the game is a pretty amusing chain of events. Priscilla basically has the idea that Dudu will come out if they stage a play, that he won't be able to help and he'll have to come and watch. And so they get thinking, mostly Priscilla doing all the thinking. She comes up with an idea of a Witcher who saves a Doppler, and shows people that Dopplers are not monsters, but people too. There's a ton of preparation quests, but I'm gonna be real, I think it's best to skip all of those. This video is already a week long as it is, you don't need to hear about me preparing for a play. Long story short, the play is set up. We have our actors that we've chosen ourselves, and the thing is ready. Geralt performs as himself to get that connection with Dudu, and surely enough, he appears in the crowd, disguised as a temple guard. Church of the Holy Fire isn't too happy with the message of the play and seeks to disrupt it as they're fucking racist. Of course, we make short work of them and the play is ruined, but at least Dudu is safe and we have him. Everything is in place now for us to break Dandelion out of prison. Dudu tells us what happened with him and Ciri, and then Zoltan suggests something, that Dudu take on the form of Ciri, so Geralt can finally see her for the first time in ages, full grown. I chose to say yes, and the moment we get is honestly very well done and very emotional.
Transform. Change into her.
I feel strange. Both of you staring at me bug-eyed. Is that enough?
Yeah. Plenty. Bad idea.
Not angry with me, are you, Geralt?
No.
I feel relieved.
Geralt feels sad in seeing Ciri and regrets the decision. It's a really nice moment and you could tell just how badly he wants to find her. And with that, the plan is set. Geralt explains to Dudu what must be done, and after some convincing, he says yes. Dudu, as Menga, will order for Dandelion to be transferred to Oxenfurt. Everyone else will wait for the escort and ambush them, freeing Dandelion. During the wait, Priscilla suggests some Gwent, and how could I resist absolutely ruining everyone's night with my superior Gwent skills? It had to be done, didn't it? But before we can play again, the guards are on their way, and it's time for everyone to attack.
They're coming! They're coming now!
Priscilla, stay here. Dandelion. Damn it.
With Dandelion on a separate horse, Geralt rides to catch up, questioning people and following the tracks. It's a tough tale, but we managed to do it. Dandelion is in a hut, taken hostage by one of the guards. The dwarves that own the local farmhouse give us the key to enter unnoticed through the back. In doing so, we get the jump on the guard, and Dandelion is saved.
Geralt, must you ruin everything? I had him just where I wanted him. It is good to see you, friend. Been a while since you were last in Novigrad. What's...
Come on, we'll talk outside.
In saving Dandelion, he can fill in the rest of Ciri's story in Novigrad. After leaving Whoreson's hideout, Ciri and Dandelion rode away at top speed, toward the very top of Temple Isle. Ciri fighting her way through Whoreson's men with a new ability that we have at this point, which is pretty fucking cool. Ciri holds off Whoreson's men in a rather spectacular fashion. Ciri, however, is cornered without her weapon as a crossbow bolt is fired at her. Dandelion dives to rescue her, but not in time. Ciri uses her powers to teleport away, leaving Dandelion to the guards, which is how he was imprisoned in the first place. Ciri has slipped through our fingers again, which leaves only one more place to try.
So... Skellige?
Skellige.
Before we're off to Skellige, however, I did spend some time tying up some loose ends. The only major one was the Master Swordsmith in Novigrad, so that when eventually I have master-crafted cat diagrams, I can take them to him and get my sword smithed. Helping him out and getting his business back up and running is a fun little quest full of jokes and action and some hard choices. A good time and well worth it for the reward. Now sadly, I lost all my footage between here and leaving for Skellige. There was a brilliant murder mystery quest focusing around someone who attacked Priscilla. A quest where we see more of Dandelion and his more caring and noble side. It does a lot for the development and it's also incredibly intriguing. Sadly though, without the footage, there's not a great deal I can say. But with the loose ends now tied up in Novigrad, it was time to depart for new lands. To meet up with Yennefer after so long, and finally find Ciri. We're off to Skellige. Skellige bound, Geralt of Rivia settles in for the long journey ahead. However, it's not long before the waves pick up and pirates lay aboard their ship. Geralt, having to grab his gear and defend himself, is then tossed from the ship into the waters to wash up on the shores of Ard Skellig. Quite the way to make an entrance. Our first interaction with someone from this island is interesting. Clearly the people from here don't take too kindly to foreigners, and I also wasn't too fond of him.
Aye. Where's Black and White? If not for her tits, you'd think she was a beached orca. Fact is, even those who see her for a wench would gladly push her out to sea, tits and all.
What's your name?
Steingrim.
Well, Steingrim, I don't like you. In fact, I feel like slapping you.
So after that fight, he points me in the way of Caer Trold, which is where Geralt is headed to find Yen. So on Roach I hopped and off we went. Thankfully Roach survived, as clearly he's quite the swimmer. I wouldn't be surprised if he just swam the entire way to Skellige. He just loves the water so very much. Once making it to Caer Trold, it was the funeral of King Bran, the old king of Skellige, someone Geralt knew, and an event which will now send Skellige into a frenzy over who will become the next king. It's very clear people's traditions here are very different from that of those on the continent. And with that, we again meet the sorceress Yennefer of Vengerberg.
You look beautiful.
Thank you. Nice to see you again.
Honestly, this scene to me is so nice. The way Geralt sounds so genuinely happy to see her again. And the same with her. The way they seem to find comfort and safety in just being around each other is really well conveyed in just a few lines of dialogue. It's clear to see that these two are made to be together, and CD Projekt Red clearly get that and their relationship dynamic. The constant flirting between the two, the way they play off of each other's banter, it works so well, and they're a pair that honestly makes so much of the stuff from this point on so much better to play. Following this, it's time to catch each other up to speed. Geralt explains the journey he's been on, and if you wish to have a recap of your own, just start this video from the beginning until you're back here again. That's basically what happens. I'll assume that you've just done that. Hope you enjoy watching the whole video again. Let us continue. Yen then catches us up to speed on exactly what she's been doing here. Supposedly, there has been a giant magical anomaly, something with incredible power, but the druid Damian won't allow Yen to investigate. So that's clearly something we have to deal with. Moving on to the next thing I love about this segment is Geralt going to a party. First, we've got to grab some clothes from Yen's room at the inn. Whoa, who are you? I feel incredibly uncomfortable. That's right. Run away. But we grab the clothes, throw them on, and then head to the wake for the dead king. The ride there was really nice. I love the vibe of Skellige. It's so different from Velen or Novigrad, but there's this free nature to it. I'm not sure if it's the sound design or the visual design, but there's this cold feeling when you see and hear it that I love about it. It feels cold and windy, but refreshing and free, and it's incredibly new to visit. Onto the party, the same band is playing here that plays in every single tavern and party when you play Gwent, but don't worry, I'll let that one slide. We get to meet Ceres on Crate, one of the children who is wanting to become the new ruler after Bran is dead. We're challenged to a race for Ceres to prove she's as strong as she claims. Of course, being a Witcher, we thoroughly ruin her day, but that's to be expected, and no one's really surprised once we get back to the wake, and it's time to leave anyway. Yen has other plans. Madman Lugos, another of the Jarls, talks some shit to Yen, and well, we can't let that pass, so we beat the ever-living shit out of him and call it a day, even forcing him to apologise like the little fucking bitch he is. Sorry, I'm just very passionate about how much of a prick this guy is. Moving on, Yen wants to take a visit to Damian's lab. Obviously uninvited, but we're to sneak in and find an item, the Mask of Ouroboros, in order to investigate this magical site that may be related to Ciri. There are so many great moments in this quest, from Geralt and Yen hiding, building tension between the two, the banter they throw back and forth while searching the lab. Yen can take as good as she gets, and it's something I really love about her character. She never takes offense to anything Geralt says and just throws the same banter back at him. After being utterly fucked by some sort of drugged gas and fighting illusions of stuffed animals, we finally enter his lab and look around at the trinkets and objects, some relating to their past, even a carving that Ciri made. Once completing a puzzle to get to the secret chamber, we find the mask, only to have an earth elemental come out and attack. Who would have guessed it? Taking it down is an easy task, relatively speaking. A few dodges here, a couple of attacks there, and we're good. Issue now is gas is slowly getting into the room, and the entrance is closed. All that's left for Yen to do is use a portal to get them out quickly. They land in Yen's room at the inn, and with plenty of time before they need to get back to the feast. It's about time I did what I set out to do, and fulfilled the romance with Yennefer. And how could we forget the infamous unicorn scene?
When are you gonna finally burn this piece of junk?
My heart couldn't take it. So many memories. Damn it, Geralt. Do you have any idea how much they cost?
Come here. We gotta hurry. Croc's waiting.
And with that sorted and in the bag, away hey for the lads, we're back at the party. Crack gives us permission to investigate the site that could have something to do with Ciri, and that was easy enough. I honestly expected 60 quests before he'd say yes, so this is looking up. It does, however, inform us of some help we could provide him with. With the next monarch to be chosen soon, Ceres and Hjalmar, his children, have gone off to prove themselves, and he's afraid they could need help, which of course I can very much provide, but later on, of course. First I had unfinished business with Lambert. I know that was ages ago, but I'm sure he'll understand, don't worry about it. Before I went there, however, I did take a detour to do some hunting for some loot in some locations, and oh see, I told you he loves water. Nice one, Roach. Oh wait, is he dead? Fuck. Finding Hammond was easy. I just went to his camp and then I found him and killed him. Taking a letter from his corpse, it was back to Novigrad to meet Lambert at the Nowhere Inn. We explained that Cerridin is likely in Novigrad, never severed ties from Hammond, and they were in business together. Lambert, however, has way more information that honestly makes any of my efforts entirely pointless. Cerridin has changed his name and is living in Novigrad, so it's time to see what he's all about. Entering his house, we meet a relatively normal man, albeit a witcher. This man, however, appears to have changed his life, no longer an assassin, however a merchant. Honestly, he convinced me that he wants a clean slate, to start things anew, and he has a wife and kids. It really wasn't my place to murder this man in his home. I knew Lambert wanted revenge, but this didn't feel like the right choice. Just an outright murder of a man who appears to regret his actions. Safe to say Lambert wasn't too happy with me, but he's never really happy with anyone. I made my choice regardless and we went our separate ways. Almost felt like it wasn't worth doing all of that digging just to let the man go, but everyone deserves a second chance, right? There was also another quest I picked up whilst in Novigrad that took me to Skellige, and this one I really loved. A man wanted pearls, specifically black ones, for his wife. I got it and then met him back in Novigrad for the reward. And honestly, this was quite a heartbreaking story. The reason he wanted the pearls was because essentially his wife had this universe's equivalent to dementia or Alzheimer's. She couldn't remember anyone, and he thought if he showed her this pearl, which for years they'd had their own little joke about, that something would waken her and she'd recognize him. In any other fantasy tale, this might have been a happy ending, but in The Witcher it's not. She didn't recognize him and it didn't work, but the fact he tried anyway is so genuinely moving. And it's such a minor missable quest, but it's one of so many that made me feel something for the people in this world, and that's so very, very special. I decided it was now time to pick up on a quest that I got way back, to head to Undvik in Skellige and get the tools for the blacksmith in Crow's Perch. By doing this, I'd be able to have master-crafted armor when the time came. So I grabbed a boat and I set sail. I don't think I've done much sailing yet, and I know I certainly haven't talked about it, but there's something so serene about it in Skellige. The music, the waves, the sound and the wind. It's such a relaxing experience just sailing across the huge expanse of water to your destination. Upon arriving, I meditated until morning and then hopped on Roach and off we went. However, I did realise I had a main side quest on this island, and so before looking for these blacksmith tools, I wanted to help find one of Crack's children, Hjalmar. He got off to fight a frost giant, and there's no chance he was going to succeed without our help. I found Hjalmar's camp in the mountains. There was a lot of blood and tracks leading into the caves. I followed them through quite a distance before I came across anything of note. Entering this old ruined house, I found what Geralt calls the Giant's Pantry. People hanging from the ceiling, impaled on spikes. It's a bloodbath, and it was the Giant's doing. Good thing, however, Hjalmar wasn't among them. At this point, the Giant has already been made out to be a fearsome foe, an enemy we've never faced before, an enemy that's dangerous. I continued following the footsteps until I found Hjalmar in a small village fighting a few sirens. In taking them down, I could ask him what on earth had happened and where the Giant had gone. Obviously, he was concerned with why I was sent to help him, which Geralt explains. With all his men dead and the Giant close by, it was time to face it. One of Hjalmar's friends was in the Giant's cave. I wanted to let him out, but sadly I woke the Giant before getting the keys, and so he absolutely obliterated the cage, and so the guy died. But it's the thought that counts. I really did try, I swear. This battle was honestly super easy. I'm pretty sure I was overleveled as fuck at this point, so it wasn't tough at all. Taking it down did feel like a great victory. If Hjalmar saved, he could head back to Ketrold. Hjalmar asked if I'd help Ceres and Speakerog, which I'd already been asked to do by Crack, and I will give her a hand in time. First, for what's left off in Undvik, gotta get those tools for the blacksmith in Crow's Perch. It wasn't tough. Had to head into the cave as mentioned by the woman at the forge, killed an ice troll and looted the tools, and with that, it was time to head back to Velen and return the tools to the quest giver. Upon arriving, Fergus, the blacksmith, has just received a request for a suit of armor from a Nilfgaardian general. His assistant Joanna, however, had had enough. Turns out she was the master armorer and not the dwarf, and she's done with hiding it. She wants to allow Fergus to craft the armor himself whilst she has a backup ready and waiting to prove she can do it. She does, however, need some specific acid from an archgriffin. Good thing there happens to be a contract for one out in Crow's Perch. So I went, killed it, got the acid, and then returned for my reward and gave the acid to Joanna so she could forge the armor. When it comes down to it, it's very clear to see who's the master armorer. And when put to the test, Fergus's armor didn't stand a chance. I mean, the arrow also did just go right through my head. No, don't worry, never mind, the armor's just that good. With that sorted, however, I can now acquire master-crafted gear if I ever found the diagrams, which I'm sure down the line I will when the time comes. Before continuing on to Ceres and helping her out, I decided to do a few bits and pieces. Some contracts had to be finished off. In Oxenfurt, I had one taking out a Katakan, a vampire who had a fondness for drunks, as well as a few bits and pieces in Skellige. I also decided to compete in the Skellige fighting tournaments, which I found incredibly fun. Fighting with just fists and basing everything purely on skill is great fun, despite the fights being relatively easy. This was also my chance, after hitting level 23, to grab the next stage of Witcher cat gear. Since I already went around hunting for those diagrams, I just had to visit the guy at Crow's Perch and get it crafted. Much better looking than the first stage, so we're moving up in the world. The process of climbing the ranks of Witcher gear is honestly so satisfying, and I do love the crafting system. Needing to craft the right materials to be able to craft the armor is a blast and feels rewarding as hell. There was also a little bit of Gwent to do, more opponents to ravage and more cards to win. Following this, it was about time I joined the high stakes tournament in Novigrad. I slowly worked my way through my foes, climbing the ranks until I lost to the final opponent and then lost my save from before then. The last save I had was so long ago that it really wasn't worth loading, and honestly it was an oversight by me, but not much I could do now, which I didn't realize at the time, but that meant there was no completing the Gwent quest line. So later on I played so much Gwent, I mean so much fucking Gwent, to discover that I can't finish the quest because I messed up and missed out on a card from this bloke who won the tournament. And I have to say, I was not bloody happy about it. But we'll get there, we will. With the tournament through, however, it was time for me to move on from card games. Oh, actually, this was a mistake. I was trying to win a card from Ermion, but I accidentally triggered the next main quest, so here we go, I guess. Ermion is not happy that Yen stole the mask from his lab. Whilst Geralt and Ermion are arguing over it, Yen goes ahead and uses it on the location of the giant magical anomaly anyway. In doing so, Geralt and Yen follow a trail left by Ciri and her elven friend. The Wild Hunt have found them and they had to fight. They were trying to escape and we get to see that. I love this way of storytelling. Things are faded and jumbled, we have to put the mystery together ourselves. Ciri fled through a portal, which Yen reads as the location being Velen, meaning this is the earliest point we're seeing in Ciri's journey. She and her elven friend were separated here, both travelled to Velen. Ciri then appeared in Crookback Bog, escaped the crones, was found by the Baron's men, went to Novigrad, found Dandelion, messed with Whoreson, then teleported away on Temple Isle. We're still no closer to discovering where she ended up after that. After finding the armour of a rider of the Wild Hunt that was vaporised by the Elven Sage, Ermion lets us know that these riders also appeared on Hindarsfjall, which is where we need to head next to follow Ciri's trail there. Perhaps that's where she appeared after teleporting away from Novigrad. However, I had plenty of unfinished business here, which I didn't realise was a waste of time, but Gwent had to be done. I played Ermion, got his card, wasn't happy about it, but I don't care, I was happy. Wait, have I probably talked about Gwent in this video? Okay, hold up. So Gwent is a card game in The Witcher 3. You basically have 3 lanes. You've got your close range, your bows and arrows, and your siege towers. Your different cards correspond with those lanes. You have to win the best 2 of 3 rounds to win a match. To win, you simply have to have the highest total score. The skill comes in knowing when to tactically pass and to force your opponent into using up more cards, or how to trick your opponent into passing so that you can destroy them and then use everything you've got on the second round. It's a ton of fun and it's also incredibly simple. I spent my time building up my deck of the Northern Realms because it's the most accessible, but the monster deck is usually my deck of choice with the Gwent standalone game, which is simply too much fun. Anyway, I played a few more and then continued with other tasks, namely racing. Had to win the best saddle and shit, which I did easily, and it was great. I love doing all of these smaller tasks you can do in the world. It feels so enjoyable to kick back and do a race or play cards and feel as though you're advancing, getting the best gear for Roach or the best cards in the game. With these races, however, I was now done. All racing was completed, and so that was cool. I decided at this stage to meet up with Yen on Hindarsfjall. I was really into the main story at this point. It was picking up speed and I wanted to see if we could find Ciri. It sounds like I'm playing this game for the first time, but it had been so long and I was so immersed, it almost did feel like my first time at this point. I couldn't remember at all when we did or didn't find Ciri, and I think that added to my excitement. On Hindarsfjall, Geralt and Yen go to the town of Lofoten to ask people about the attack of the Wild Hunt.
They say the Wild Hunt destroyed this village.
That is true, though few believe us. You don't either, I'm sure.
Did you see riders on skeleton horses, wearing frost-covered armor?
Aye, that's how it was. They landed on our shores in a ship made of the claws of dead men, like in the ballads. Leif yelled to grab the children. Then they came, cut him across his face. He tried to whisper, only blood came out.
You were to ask about someone, not prod their wounds. That's enough. What happened then?
Yen, leave her alone.
You don't understand. If we can learn where...
I understand, and I'm still asking you to stop.
You're right.
Get to the point. No.
They tell us that Ciri was here, and that she was last in the stables with Craven, a man who used to be called Skull. He was cast out of the village for abandoning the village whilst it was under attack by the Wild Hunt. He fled, and we need to talk to this man. They tell us he went to a garden to fight someone called Morkvarg, someone who was cursed and turned into a beast. The perfect job for a witcher.
A curse? A monster? You've got some work to do.
Upon visiting the garden, we see that this beast is indeed a werewolf, and he's in great pain. We must enter with Yen to find Skarl. This is where the quest sort of splits off. Finding Skarl is our main quest, however, lifting the curse from Morkvarg is a secondary quest, which, I'm gonna be real, did confuse me a little bit, but then again, I'm an idiot. Save the Morkvarg hunt for later on, about time we found this Craven. I used my Witcher senses and followed the tracks until I found Craven. Dead. His body was pretty badly fucked. Yen wants us to bring up the body to the surface. Clearly she has a plan of some kind. In doing so, her plan is to use necromancy to bring the corpse back to life for a short time to find out what happened with Ciri. This scene's pretty fucked. Yen's spell worked and the corpse of Craven cries out in pain.
Are you Craven of Lofoten?
No, I have a name. I am Skull.
However, he does tell us the story of what happened to Ciri. Ciri falls from the sky into the sea, the elven mage carrying her. He leaves her here with a message to remember.
Ciri. Zirel.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I must leave you now. We will meet beneath drowned dead rock. Can you remember? Repeat it.
Drowned. Dead rock.
It's now up to the people of Lofoten to help Ciri recover so she can leave and find her friend again and continue her journey. This Ciri quest is one of my favourites. Ciri forms quite a bond with Skarl, the one that's dead and telling the story. Ciri spends some time with these people. A visit to the sauna to help her heal, as people of this town believe. Oh, Jesus, this is going to be annoying to censor. In the sauna, Ciri has a conversation. Just little things that make this town feel alive, and also make you feel bad when everything goes to shit, as you know it will from Geralt and Yen's perspective. Leaving the sauna, we return to Skarl for him to show us the direction to drowned dead rock. I also accidentally almost had Ciri fuck this random bloke. I mean, he's a nice guy and all, but I feel like Ciri has much higher standards than him, no offense. I didn't think that's what the dialogue options meant, and seeing her from Geralt's point of view, I felt so fucking bad when I realised what choice I just made. Not that there's anything wrong with it, I felt like I was Geralt and choosing for Ciri to fuck some bloke. It was weird, I don't know. It was a mistake, and we won't talk about it. Let's move on. Before anything can happen, however, the Wild Hunt appear, being on the trail of Ciri due to using her powers. Ciri does her best to defend the town, but Skarl pulls away to take her to drowned dead rock, meaning Skarl never abandoned anyone. He was luring the Wild Hunt away from the village to also help Ciri reach her destination, because he genuinely cares about her, which makes his death even more of a tragedy, because he was brave enough to help Ciri escape. The Wild Hunt mowed him down, but Ciri just managed to escape with the Elven Sage. They rode out into the distance, and when Skarl came to, all that returned was Uma? The creature from the Baron's fortress in Crow's Perch, meaning this odd creature was the key to finding Ciri. With no more information to get out of Skarl, it's time to let him go. Yen, however, had sapped the entire Garden of Life in order to get the information they needed. The people, of course, weren't too happy about this, and it's time we left. Now we know our next steps. To head off to Velen, back to Crow's Perch to get Uma, the mysterious creature, and then bring it to Kaer Morhen to lift the curse. If we can. However, before that, there are a few loose ends to tie up. For one, there's the matter of Morkvarg, and I'm going to be real, this quest was a nightmare for me. I have no real desire to revisit it. I spent so long going around in circles. It may have been me being utterly stupid, but regardless, it frustrated me to no end, and even after I figured out how to lift the damn curse, I ended up killing the bastard anyway. But at least I got my reward, I suppose. My other loose end was Ceres. However, before that, I tied up some even looser ends. See, we're ranking which end is the most loose and needs the most tying. What am I even talking about? I'm 39 pages deep, and this script is honestly making me go mad. I had some contracts needed doing and whatnot, you know, gotta get some of that XP. All of these contracts had engaging stories that genuinely invested me in these characters. After completing this one with the couple where the man was killed by a siren and the woman's left alone and devastated, I put out a tweet saying like, how am I this deep into the game and minor side contracts still have me feeling some kind of way? Still doing bits to my emotions. It's honestly just superb, and I know I keep saying it, but it goes to show the quality of writing that goes into every single little part of this game. The way you feel Geralt's emotions for these ordinary people, and the way people feel so ordinary. Not in the sense of being boring, but in the sense of feeling like regular, everyday, real people. Partially it's the performances, but also it's the writing. It's really, really incredible. Moving on though, we have the matter of Ceres with her little quest to prove herself as a ruler. To cut a long story short, the Jarl of this region has been having nightmares, hearing voices and the whole lot. At first, Geralt thinks it's a curse, which will be lifted when he returns his brother's sword to where he died. Thinks that his dead brother has been haunting him, but that's not the case, because even after Geralt has done the deed, the Jarl pokes his own eye out. Geralt concludes that it was a Heim, a creature that latches onto men who commit vile deeds, fuels themselves with their pain, and forces their victims to mutilate themselves. Finding out about these rarer creatures in the Witcherverse is always incredibly interesting, and this is no exception. Geralt and Ceres decide to beat it, they need to trick the Heim into latching onto someone else who's committed a bad deed. Issue is, the pain and guilt has to be genuine for the Heim to leave the host and latch onto another, whilst also for the trick to work, the bad deed needs to not have actually been committed, which means Geralt needs to fake doing something unforgivable whilst not realising it's being faked. Long story short, we throw a baby in an oven and the Heim latches onto us. Good thing being we didn't actually kill the baby. It was all the trick that Ceres conjured up, unbeknownst to us. So the Heim has to let us go and perish it. This quest is genuinely really fun. I really like Ceres a lot as a character, and it's a new take on fighting a monster, and it's so interesting to see it play out. I genuinely wasn't sure if I should throw the baby in the oven, but I did it because, fuck it, I had to trust Ceres, and it turned out to be for the best. With that quest done, it was time to head back to Caer Trolde to see who would be crowned the new king or queen. Now here, I went and fucked up again. I was recording for so long, I ran out of hard drive space without bloody realising it, so I lost this portion of the footage, sadly. It's only a side quest for Skellige politics, but it's a shame. Essentially, we have to investigate who attacked the party at Caer Trolde, and we find out that it was one big political plot. Due to Ceres being the only one to uncover the plot with Geralt, we end up with her crowned as the first queen of Skellige, which is pretty cool, to say the least. And she's easily the best fit to drive the Jarls toward a more prosperous future. It's now time for our final quest that we need to wrap up on Skellige, besides a few contracts, but this is a major one. The Last Wish. It's an important quest in the process of romancing Yennefer. It's named after the second book in the Witcher series, a collection of short stories, one of which being something that we see adapted in the Netflix show, Yen trying to capture a djinn, and Geralt only being able to free her from it by taking the last wish, making the wish that they would never be separated, that they would always find each other, and they would always be together. Yen wants to lift that wish by finding another djinn, not because she doesn't want to be with Geralt, but because she doesn't want it to be bound by magic. She wants to know if what they have is genuine. This quest is pretty chilled out. You sail on the sea with Yen, they discuss events from the books, which is a nice callback. We search various shipwrecks, searching for items that we need. We find half under the sea, and Yen can use that to find the other half. Once they have both halves, they can summon the djinn. Also, this bit of dialogue doesn't even sound like Geralt, and it's really funny.
Oh no, not another portal.
I don't know, it just really amused me. After being teleported and searching the ship that's perched atop a mountain, it allows us to find the second half of the disc to summon the djinn.
Came Jin, Rif Kaishta El Daya, Kaishta Ep Disglair, De Virid Me Castle.
After fighting it, Yen reverses the wish.
Got you! Your master died before uttering his last wish. I cannot capture you. We can struggle like this for eternity, or I can release you. If you do one thing for me. Do you see the spell that binds us? Only a djinn can remove another djinn's spell. Remove this one and you'll be free. You are free!
After all is over, they both sit on the edge of the ship and discuss how they feel.
Thank you for coming, Geralt. I'd have had a much harder time of it on my own.
Well, never could say no to you.
Perhaps that will change now.
Feel anything? That anything's different?
I expected... I don't know what I expected, actually. A bit of vertigo, perhaps. I thought you'd become a stranger to me, that I'd look at you and not feel a thing. But it's not like that at all. Nothing's changed.
Jin might have cheated us after all.
Why?
Because I don't feel that anything's changed either. I love you, Yen.
And I love you.
It felt incredibly satisfying to complete this quest, having Geralt and Yen come together and finally feel that it's real love, not something created by magic. And as they sit on the edge and admire the view, that puts a close on our time here in Skellige for the time being. Act 1 of The Witcher 3 is behind us, and it's time for things to get a lot more tense and a lot more linear. I headed for the docks to head back to Velen and find our little ugly baby, Uma. Moving on to the second act of The Witcher 3 is where the main story becomes the full focus. Things become more linear, the stakes are higher, and things become much more intense. Arriving back at Crow's Perch, now owned by the Baron's sergeant, the new Baron I guess, Geralt heads to the Baron's quarters to inquire about Uma and take him with him. With the sergeant not wanting to risk losing his life over a cripple, he hands him over, and so off we go to the stables to get our new little friend, get him aboard Roach, and off we go, back to Kaer Morhen. On the road to Kaer Morhen, we encounter a squad of Nilfgaardian troops who demand we go with them to Vizima. At first I was like, nah, not gonna happen, but, you know, they insisted and the Emperor demanded, so I went with them. I sort of had to. Emir wanted an update on the search for his daughter. Yen is also there to help with the information. Essentially, we explained that Uma is the key to finding Ciri. Emir is certainly not impressed.
As you wish, Your Majesty. Ciri, well, this man is the key to finding her.
I give you 3 solid leads. Trails as fresh as morning dew. The aid of my spies and my court sorcerers. Yet in my daughter's stead, you bring me this monstrosity?
Our goal is to take Uma to Kaer Morhen to lift the curse, which Yen seems confident she can do. Before leaving, Emir gives us half of our reward, which is 2,000 crowns. Like, honestly, 4,000 crowns? For your daughter? That seems a little bit cheap. I know Geralt would have gone for free, but still. 4,000 crowns? Once out of Emir's chambers, Geralt hands the phylactery to Yen to keep it safe. Yen teleports away to get things ready, while Geralt, Uma, and Roach take the longer path, riding to the Witcher's Fortress of Kaer Morhen.
Oh there, Roach.
Forktails this close to the fortress? Someone's been slacking off.
The music as we enter invokes this feeling of peace and nostalgia, even though we know the worst is yet to come. This is the calm before the storm. The soundtrack of Kaer Morhen is some of my favourite in the whole game. It just feels so Witcher, I can't explain it. I guess it's because the music here is a new take on the one from the original Witcher game, so you feel that sense of nostalgia when entering this iconic location for the first time. And it really does feel special. After spending some time saying hello to everyone and explaining the situation, it's time to get a few things done. Yen needs help fixing a megascope, Lambert needs to head to the Circle of Elements, and Eskel has been tracking a forktail. You can help all these people, and we get some nice banter and backstory as we go. Entering the old castle of Kaer Morhen feels grand. It looks so much like the first game, yet so different too, and I love that feel. First off, I spoke to Lambert about his task. Yen has asked him to fortify the phylactery with power from the Circle of Elements. Lambert is a bit of a bitch to Geralt at this point, and I kind of wanted to punch him in his stupid face, but you know, that wasn't really an option. Anyway, before we headed out with Lambert, I went up to speak to Yen to see what she needed. Essentially, there's something in the castle causing a magical disturbance, and by using Yen's little tool that she gives us, we're able to get rid of it. Turns out it was some Dimeritian bombs that Lambert left lying around, on purpose like a prick. Once Yen can get the megascope to work, we get some insight in how to lift the curse. The language of the Elven it was uttered in can help Yen to identify how to reverse it. Anyway, it's about time we help Lambert reach the Circle of Elements. This is a quest I really enjoyed. There's banter here and there, Geralt and Lambert throwing it back and forth. It's just good fun.
Want to hear a limerick?
Sure.
Lambert, what a prick.
Not bad.
Once we cross the lake and head into the cave and deal with some stupid fucking rock trolls, you know what, I've had it up to here with fucking rock trolls. They're so annoying. Their dialogue takes a fucking year. I'm sick of them. I don't need any more fucking rock trolls. I know I could have talked my way out of this, but I genuinely took pleasure in seeing them die. Sorry. After the rock trolls are dealt with, we reach our destination. Lambert explains how to use the Circle of Elements to fortify the phylactery, and Bob's your uncle. He also tells a story that really explains why Lambert is the way that he is, why he's such a fucking bitch, and I really liked that, getting an insight into exactly what made him the way that he is.
Tell me, you always been such a cynical bastard?
No. I was adorable before Vesemir brought me to Kaer Morhen.
We all went through it.
That's just it. Not everyone made it. Lots of boys died here. Boys taken against their will.
It was our destiny.
Destiny. Let me tell you about destiny. My dad was a drunk. He'd knock a few back, then beat me and Mom bloody. We prayed for his death every night. One day our prayers were almost answered. Dad lost his way coming home from the tavern, walked smack into a nest of neckers. But some witcher saved him. Know what he wanted in return? Give me the first thing you see when you get home. My life. For the life of that prick? I say fuck that kind of destiny.
Didn't know. I'm sorry.
Next time you wonder why I'm so bitter, well, there's your answer. Alright. We've griped enough. Let's get out of here.
After dealing with that, we're headed back to Kaer Morhen. Also, of course, had to ruin Lambert by challenging him to a game of Gwent. His card had to be mine, despite having fucked the Gwent quest, which at this point I didn't realise. Now it was time to help out Eskel. After tracking him through the woods, we come across a goat he's been using as bait for the Forktail.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Scarce here.
The Forktail swoops in and we take it down as a team, using Quen and whatnot, which is the sole use of my skill points in this game. It's all Quen, gotta get that shield and the healing property. Quen is a boss sign and that's just how it be. Once the Forktail is dealt with, we can bring the spinal fluid that Yen needs to lift the curse, and back we head to Kaer Morhen. Yen bringing everyone together to explain what we need to do. Before, however, Vesemir wants to try a more natural remedy, taking Uma up into the mountains and trying to lift the curse his way, which means it's a night for the lads, except Yen, being the classic woman that she is, pulls us away from the boys. First she nags at me when I get home from a long day at the coal mines. Now she's pulling me away from a bev with the lads. What's next? I swear, women these days, am I right, boys? I would have skipped over this because it's sort of not relevant to talk about every time Geralt bangs Yennefer, but this was a really cool scene in which they used visual imagery of a wolf hunting its prey. The chase between a doe and a wolf illustrates Geralt and Yen. It's honestly really cool and sort of caps off their relationship in a very poetic way. But afterwards, it's time to drink with the boys. This is one of my favourite quests. They play their own Witcher version of Never Have I Ever, with them all admitting to dumb shit. They slowly get more and more fucked, with Lambert doing his classic Vesemir impression. There's so many fun moments that just shows CD Projekt Red can easily handle their humour without entirely changing the tone of the game. The night ends with them coming up with the perfect idea to invite sorceresses to Kaer Morhen. To fuck. That's basically the entire premise of their plan, and to do so, they will dress up in Yen's clothes and invite sorceresses over. It's the perfect plan. It's sure to work.
I'll do the talking. You two fiddle with the crystals. Kedmil blood de doigt. Hocus pocus abracadabra arsplatha.
What is this? Who's that?
So sorry. We were never here.
Guards! More paper, Excellency! No, you oaf! The lodge has come for me!
Yen, of course, catches them, and I guess the fun's over. Classic birds, am I right, boys? Always ruining the bloody fun. Waking up the next day, Geralt finds everyone standing around Uma, whose curse has not yet been lifted. So, it's onward with Yen's plan. She plans to subject Uma to half of the Trial of the Grasses, to allow Uma's body to become open to change. The Trial of the Grasses being the thing that witches have to go through to become what they are at the end point. As Uma writhes in pain as we administer each potion, you can see the witch's resentment to this method, all having to go through the Trial of the Grasses themselves. Lambert leaving because he can't stand to watch and holds Vesemir responsible for so much pain. With all the potions administered, Yen has to hold Uma in place to stop his body from falling apart. As Yen is beginning to fall asleep, the process is complete. It's time for the final stage. With the curse lifted, it's none other than the Elven Sage, the one that had been travelling with Ciri. Geralt identifies him as Avalac. Avalac explains that he kept Ciri on the Isle of Mists to protect her. To find her, Geralt needs only take this Orb of Light to Skellige and follow it into the mist. With that understood, it's only a matter of time before the Wild Hunt can find Ciri. Geralt has to prepare, gather allies before heading to the Isle of Mists, rally them to Kaer Morhen and set up a defence to combat the Wild Hunt. And so before we leave for the Isle of Mists, we have to revisit allies and get them to join us. Of course, this all depends on what quests I've done for them and how well I performed at those quests as to whether they'll join us. It means your progression throughout the game actually matters as to which characters will give you a hand when it comes to the end. Firstly, I was off to Novigrad. I spoke first of all to Dijkstra, who I knew wasn't going to help me. I made an utter mess of his quest, and although it was funny, he was not willing to help. And I mean, he's a fat guy with a fucked leg, so who really cares? Next up, our boy Zoltan, who of course was going to help us. He's been our mate for so long, and there's no chance he'd turn us down. Vernon Roach was my next. After helping him with Vez and everything we'd been through in The Witcher 2, there was no doubt that Roach would give us a hand, bringing Vez with him too. Next we headed to Skellige to meet with Cerys, Crack, and Damian. Cerys had to stay behind as she's now the queen. It's not like she could leave her throne and come with us. However, instead Hjalmar offered to join us, so that's another man under our belt. Crack won't spare his men to help, which is fair enough. It would leave him open to an attack from the Nilfgaardians, and that was never going to happen. He does, however, give us a sword that's not as good as the one that we have, so fuck you, Crack, goodbye. Talking to Ermion, he is willing to help us. He didn't need much convincing and set out for Kaer Morhen. Our final task was to ask Ciri's own father, Emhyr, the Emperor of Nilfgaard. First, he proposed bringing her to Vizima so that his men could look after her, but that was never going to happen. Geralt would be putting the entirety of Vizima at risk, and that's just not a smart move. Emhyr wouldn't allow for Geralt to command his men, and so they were at an impasse. We were on our own with the people we'd rallied to defend Kaer Morhen alone, and all that remains now is the matter of Ciri on the Isle of Mists. I went to the docks of Caer Trolde, hopped on a boat, and sailed onwards, honestly feeling somewhat nervous. The entire game thus far had led us to this point. So much time, so much build-up, and so much effort. Despite having played all of this before, that tension of the moment gripped me. I felt the same emotions that Geralt was feeling. I think that's a testament to how well they allow you to connect with this character. The effort they put in to help you relate to him. The fact that as I sailed ever closer, I felt the anxiety the protagonist would feel, and it made what came next so impactful. Upon reaching the Isle of Mists, you use the orb Avallac'h gave you to hone in on Ciri. The orb brings us to a hut deep into the fog of the island. Once there, we try the door. Locked. And then, from inside, we hear a voice.
I'm not gonna hurt you. Open up.
Oh, you blew our fucking cover. Who are you? What do you want?
Dwarves that had lost their friends, and we had to help find them. First one was on top of a rock. Whilst climbing down, he...
Dead.
Next one I found in a lighthouse, alive but asleep. Hauling his narcoleptic ass back to the hut was a nightmare. The final dwarf I found dead. Its corpse lay near the lair of a fiend, which I promptly took down. Heading back to the hut, I told the dwarves about the fate of their friends, and they tell me if they've seen Ciri. And they have. Just moments ago in the hut, but cold and not breathing. All the monsters Geralt had faced, all the people he'd fought and killed, couldn't have prepared him for this moment. Feeling he's truly lost one of the most important people he'd ever met. The great white wolf was simply afraid. Maybe for the first time in a long time. The moment that follows is one of my favourite moments in video games as a whole. I could sit here and describe the music, the camera angles, the emotion on Geralt's face, or I could just let it speak for itself. In that moment of believing he'd lost Ciri, Geralt feels true despair, and not only does his face show that, the way he holds her, the music getting more and more desperate as it plays, only to culminate in a crescendo as Ciri awakes. Her life essence returns thanks to the orb Avridobbs gave Geralt. It wasn't just showing the way to Ciri, it effectively was Ciri, flowing into what is a representation of their reuniting done in the most beautiful way. Ciri is back, and at this point I had the biggest smile with tears streaming down my face. It's moments like these that make playing video games worth it. TV and movies are all well and good, and they can give you the same emotional impact, but there's something so very special about playing these moments. You don't just get to observe a story, you play and experience and live in these worlds for hundreds and hundreds of hours that make these moments hit you so hard. With Ciri back, and our main quest effectively complete, it's time to catch up with Ciri. As we sit around the fire, we see Geralt and Ciri talk like nothing ever changed, being happy to just sit in each other's company. Geralt explains how we lifted Avallac's curse and that he's at Kaer Morhen. Ciri also explains how Avridobbs is really doing this because of her power. He doesn't want it to fall into Eredin's hands, as that could spell disaster. Eredin needs Ciri's power to get his troops from their world to our world, and his navigators can't do that alone, which means he needs to control Ciri to do it, so he can invade our world and take over, due to his world being utterly destroyed by the White Frost, which is an inevitability for all worlds, freezing them over and bringing an end to life. Ciri also talks about a time when Eredin couldn't find them for around half a year. The world she describes is speculated to be somewhat of an Easter egg for Cyberpunk, the upcoming game from CD Projekt Red.
To a world where Eredin couldn't find us for, perhaps half a year.
The world where Eredin couldn't find you. What was it like?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Try me.
People there had metal in their heads, waged war from a distance, using things similar to megascopes. And there were no horses. Everyone had their own flying ship instead.
Ciri, stop fooling around.
Told you wouldn't believe me. We should have stayed there.
In this case, it's a bit more than an Easter egg, essentially making it canon that Ciri can in fact travel into that world, and the events of The Witcher and Cyberpunk sort of take place in the same universe, whilst also being separate dimensions, if that makes sense. After Ciri recapped us on her journey, which we've been following the entire game, we leave the hut for Kaer Morhen. Sadly, the dwarves have stolen our boat, the fucking scoundrels, and in the same moment the Wild Hunt have appeared. There's no time to think, it's time to teleport back to Kaer Morhen and begin preparations for the assault, as they're sure to be close behind. Finally arriving is a moment to cherish, seeing Ciri happy as ever in a place she studied and trained at, seeing Vesemir again and Yennefer. It's a delight to have this moment of reprieve in such a dark time.
Welcome back, child.
Ciri! My, you've grown beautiful.
No point standing around. Come on, time to greet the others.
Once everyone's had the chance to catch up, we walk through to the main hall. All of our allies have shown up, preparing different traps and defenses. The castle feels alive with people preparing different things and talking to each other. We're also able to talk to different characters on the way through, Zoltan, Ermion, and we even get some closure or follow-up to Roach and Letho. Kira Metz is in the main hall, and it feels good to have everyone coming together. It's time, however, to get a plan. Geralt gathers everyone in the main hall. This moment is incredible, as the camera pans around to everyone as Geralt speaks, and in the background it plays a variation on his theme. Just building up the tension. We now have to formulate a plan of attack and defense. Everyone has their own role. Certain options are up to us, such as what we use the tools for, fix the breach in the wall, or clear debris to get swords. You have to decide what's most important. And so the plan is set.
Let's sum up. Yennefer will create a magic barrier to repel the main assault. That should push the opposing force into the woods, where Lambert, Geralt, and Letho will be waiting. They'll use Dimeridium to close the navigator's portals. Stop as many warriors as possible from entering the fortress. Triss will be waiting for their signal, then give the riders hell. All others will repel any foes who make it inside the fortress walls.
If anything goes wrong, we abandon the outer courtyard and pull back to the keep. Remember, Eridan can't get his hands on Ciri. That's most important. Let's look at the map of the fortress, figure out the details.
And with that, the battle begins. Everyone takes their spot at the castle, and the Wild Hunt descend.
See that? It's starting. Woods, now.
Geralt, Lambert, and Letho have to head out to close all of the Wild Hunt portals as quickly as possible. Afterwards, Triss can rain fire down on the remaining Wild Hunt. Triss doesn't seem to fire, however. Switching POV to Ciri, who's now entered the battlefield being unable to wait, she heads off to help Triss. We use Ciri's powers to reach Triss and dispel the Wild Hunt warriors and hounds, so Triss is able to cast the spell. Fighting as Ciri is so satisfying. Having all of her powers at our disposal now, we really feel like we can take on anything. The atmosphere feels tense, the attacks are relentless, and it truly feels like a battle for everything. With Triss saved, she can now rain down fire on the Wild Hunt, pressing Geralt, Lambert, and Letho.
Geralt!
Head back.
What a fucking cool scene. It's time to head back to the castle. Riding through the fire, debris and destruction towards Kaer Morhen, it's time to close the gate before the Wild Hunt can reach, ignoring the battle and getting onto the castle wall to close the gate just in time. Again, the pacing of the battle is incredible. Everything feels like a near miss, and I genuinely had anxiety trying to make sure that I was doing everything in time. Next up, we have a major moment. Lambert is struck down, surrounded by the Wild Hunt, surely done for, and he would be if we hadn't sent Keira Metz to Kaer Morhen. This is a moment where Lambert can die, but because we managed to send Keira to Kaer Morhen early in our playthrough, she was there to save him, and that's just incredible. All of our actions have consequences. Falling back to the courtyard, this is where we have to make our last stand. Problem is, the gate is locked shut, because Eskel is preoccupied from an attack from Caranthir. Switching back to Ciri again, she heads to his rescue, and this scene is so fucking cool. I love how Ciri is portrayed. She's an absolute master with a sword, and it looks flawless. Into the battle we go against the Wild Hunt, taking out as many as we can, opening the gate for Geralt, who now has to close the many portals that have been opened by the Wild Hunt. There are enemies coming from everywhere, spells flying past us, our friends everywhere fighting alongside us. This battle is truly spectacular from start to finish, and as we close the final portal and things seem more under control, the Wild Hunt strike their final blow. With Geralt and everyone else frozen, the Wild Hunt captains, led by Eredin, enter the courtyard. The music swells and we feel the same sense of dread and danger that everyone else feels. Vesemir leads Ciri away and tries to take her to safety, intercepted by the Wild Hunt. Vesemir does his best to fight them off, but it's ultimately no match for these fearsome warriors. And what follows is the climactic finale to this battle. With Ciri unable to flee, Vesemir knows the only way he can get Ciri to save herself is to sacrifice himself. A noble act for someone he truly cares about.
You always were an unruly child. I adored that about you. Now fly!
Ciri, unable to contain her emotions, lets out a devastating scream, forcing the Wild Hunt to retreat. The only one who can calm her is Avalac, casting a spell to put Ciri to sleep. The battle for now is won, but Ciri sits alone with Vesemir's body. Geralt rushes to her, realizing what's happened. His teacher, his mentor, is gone. Sorrow fills everyone. Geralt picks up Vesemir's sword from the ground and places it back into his sheath. Ciri feels guilty, feels it was her fault. Her being here put everyone in danger and killed Vesemir. Obviously that's not the case, but how can your mind jump to anything else but guilt and regret in a time of grief? And as Ciri turns away, Geralt says something that is so subtle yet so powerful. It resonates so well for this scene.
I can't cry. Don't know how.
Geralt and Ciri hug, and you can tell this moment's impactful. Everyone is here for Vesemir's funeral. He's surrounded by so many people, and it feels so fitting. He has an incredible send-off, and you feel genuine sadness, but also urgency, because everyone knows that the Wild Hunt won't stop. They'll be back.
Don't blame yourself. No Witcher's ever died in his own bed.
You don't know how it is to see someone you love die. Because of you. For you.
We all knew what we were signing up for.
Yes. And you saved me. For how long? A week? A month?
We'll hide you. Cover your tracks.
No. I will flee no more.
Following this, you can wander around and speak to everyone. People will say they're sorry for your loss, tell memories of Vesemir, and give advice for how to move forward with the Wild Hunt. Following Avalac down to Yen and Triss, they decide the best way to defend against the Wild Hunt is to find the sorceresses of the Lodge, the most powerful magical users in the continent. The only problem is, most are dead or in hiding, so it's Yen and Triss's job to round them up, with the bargain that the Emperor will grant them amnesty. Ciri, however, is not happy with this plan. It makes sense given she just saw her teacher die, and she can't bear anyone else to risk their lives for her. She also desperately wants to fight. She can't just sit around anymore, and that's very Ciri. Triss and Yen leave to start their mission, and Geralt and Avalac look over at Kaer Morhen. It has been an incredibly hard battle, but the hardest might be yet to come. A few days later, the sun rises over never mind. As the sun rises over Kaer Morhen, Geralt sits alone sharpening his blade. Ciri exits the castle with Avalac, frustrated. Geralt lends some words of advice, seemingly to no avail. After heading inside to cheer up Ciri, they drink, and the night goes on. The next morning, Ciri wakes Geralt up at the crack of dawn. She wants to go to Velen, to a place called Bald Mountain, a few days from what is known as the Witch's Sabbath, and the guest of honor is Imlerith, the one that killed Vesemir. Ciri feels it's the best chance to take him out and avenge Vesemir. We agree to go and head off to Velen. Back in Velen feels like such a long time ago that I was here, running errands for the Baron, looking for Ciri, a lifetime ago. This quest feels tense. There's a lot riding on this, but also seeing Geralt and Ciri do something together, a mission of their own, the way they work together and whatnot, is an incredibly fun time to watch, seeing these two just work side by side. Once we reach the base of the mountain, there are villagers having some kind of party. We sit down and discuss. They tell us about how they send the crones gifts all year long, and on this night, the crones repay them. The gifts, however, children.
I met one of your gifts to the crones. Sniveling, scared to death, and about 8 years old.
Stay calm.
Heading through the village to reach the tent where we can see about reaching the gate, we run into two godlings, Johnny and Sarah.
They say ghosts are a manifestation of inner fears. Hauntings are said to be longing and loneliness grown to vast proportions. There's no truth to that. It is true, however, that monsters can be as lonely as humans, and that to conquer one's loneliness, one must first conquer one's fears. Some manage to do just that.
By making the choices we made, the two godlings found each other, and I feel like that's one hell of a satisfying ending. We had to talk to the woman to gain entrance to the mountain. Thekla, her name is, and for whatever reason, she chooses who does and does not reach the peak of the mountain. Ciri is permitted to go, but Geralt is not. However, we can appeal the decision with a challenge. She throws a coin into a pool and we must jump in to retrieve it. Monsters nearby and the pool full of drowners, you can see how most probably just die. After returning the coin, she lets both of us pass. Immediately we're attacked by a Sylvan called Fugus. Clearly this system is set up for the crones to take victims. Not expecting us, however, we take down this beast of a man. I guess he's a monster, but he's also sentient, so whatever. And then it's time to split up. Ciri is desperate to face Imlerith, but Geralt's not about to let that happen. They play a game of rock, paper, scissors to see who they fight, and Geralt wins. He takes Imlerith, and Ciri heads down to fight the crones underneath the tree, to end them once and for all. First up, we have Ciri's portion. She climbs through the innards of the mountain, starting to hear the voices of the crones as we get close to their location. From behind a branch, Ciri watches them, stirring a cauldron full of blood and body parts. And also, they're naked for some reason. Because oh, Jesus Christ, clean your face, oh, that's just, oh my god, I think I'm gonna be sick. It's time for the crones to die. Ciri jumps down, alerting them to her presence. They then transform from their human form to, yep, they're just as disgusting as I remember.
Welcome, child of the elder blood. We knew you would return.
Your taste lingers on our tongues.
You've talked enough.
Now it's time to take on the crones. Using our dodges and special moves to deal damage, the Ciri moments in this game are some of the best combat-wise, because you really have to worry about your health, your timing, your dodges, and your abilities. Ciri doesn't have her own combat level that you level up as you play the game. It always matches the quest that you're doing. I slowly chipped away at their health whilst defending my own, taking down the crones one by one until they were all defeated.
Damn it.
The last crone escapes. If you get the quote bad ending, Geralt will find and kill the final crone, otherwise she's just gone into the wind. Now it's time for Geralt in his fight against Imlerith. Surrounded by succubi, that's the plural for succubus, right? And enjoying his time, he expected Geralt to arrive, and so he was prepared.
The sisters said you would come. They saw you arrive in the water's surface. They did not see the girl. But she is with you, is she not?
I'm here alone.
A lie which will change nothing. First you, then her.
Fighting Imlerith is a fantastic fight, same as most of the members of the Wild Hunt. Using Quen, I could keep my health up whilst dealing damage to him at the same time, using my sword to get attacks in when need be and dodging his heavy attacks, making sure to use my potions as well to keep myself doing maximum damage. This wasn't a matter of button mashing, it was a matter of endurance, keeping up the pattern almost like a dance, remembering the pattern of his attacks and when I could attack back, until his health was gone, thoughtful and precise. As we chip away at Imlerith's final piece of health, we get one of the most incredible scenes as Geralt finally gets his revenge for the death of Vesemir.
Who taught you to fight like this?
The Witcher you slew.
Honestly, fucking incredible. The dialogue, the final moment, crushing his head, fucking marvelous.
We did it.
Barely. How'd it go down there?
I slew only 2 of the crones. The third fled with Vesemir's medallion. My sole memento.
As Ciri and Geralt sit on the edge of Bald Mountain, they speak of Triss and Yen and of their mission. They're to meet in Novigrad, and so that's the next destination.
Then non-humans. Thought it was mages the hunters and the temple guard were after.
Mages left. Hunters needed a new quarry.
Geralt and Ciri arrive in Novigrad to find that things have changed. After the mages escaped, the temple guard started killing all non-humans. Novigrad just gets worse, and that's down to Radovid.
Hatred and prejudice will never be eradicated, and witch hunts will never be about witches. To have a scapegoat, that's the key. Humans always fear the alien, the odd. Once the mages had left Novigrad, folk turned their anger against the other races. And as they have for ages, branded their neighbors their greatest foes.
Entering the Chameleon, the new name for the Rosemary time, Ciri and Geralt meet up with Zoltan and Dandelion, explaining where they've been. Ciri heads off to rest and tells Geralt she has some things to tie up and needs his help. A quest to do later. We also learn that Triss, Yen, and Avallac'h need help from us regarding different tasks, preparing to take down Eredin. And so this was my last proper chance to tie up any loose ends before the end of the game occurred. First things first, we had to get the next stage of Witcher gear for the School of the Cat. The diagrams we collected a while back just had to pop to our swordsmith in Novigrad and our armourer at Crow's Perch to get ourselves the superior level of cat gear. Not too shabby if I do say so myself. Only a few levels to go and we'll be ready to grab the mastercrafted gear. Now we have some final loose ends to tie up. The final fight quest in Skellige against the champion of champions being a literal rock troll. I also think this quest glitched because I mean, well, look at it. What are these people doing? Get out of my arena or I'm having a fight against the all-time champ. And of course I won. Honestly though, the reward wasn't even worth it, but at least I was the champion. That felt good, I guess. I then also had a few contracts left over, a few in Skellige and a few in Velen. Some missing miners, a so-called dragon that turned out to be a forktail, a group of monsters conspiring to kill a witcher. That one was especially interesting and fun to play through. Seeing the mentality of Geralt and the way when he's up against these odds. The fact that witchers don't just kill monsters, but they're peacekeepers between humans and monsters, and so it's his job to protect sentient monsters as much as it's his job to kill the aggressive ones. Also had a few treasure hunts here and there as well. Now, this is where my realization happened when it came to Gwent. I was finishing off getting the cards I needed for a whole 2 hours. It's 2 fucking hours, and then I realized I missed the card from the fucking tournament. Heartbroken is an understatement, but to be fair, it was all my fault. I just wish the quest would fail instead of sitting in my log taunting me. I don't really care at the end of the day. Gwent was fun. It's a shame, but, you know, can't be helped, I suppose. Another quest I simply had to complete was the Tower Out of Nowhere quest in Skellige, where a tower has simply appeared in the middle of an island. There's also meant to be a storm here, but I guess because I left and came back ages later, I fucked it up. Anyway, you head to the tower, meet a nice bloke from Quivir, and have to disable the defense system put in place by the previous owner of the tower, allowing for our boy to leave and for the island to return to normal. That's not even the best part of the quest. Okay, maybe it is, but what I liked so much was the aftermath. We were sent in there to see if we could find some of the men they'd sent in prior to us. Sadly, they'd all died. And you feel really sorry for the people of this island. I mean, just look at this conversation.
Wait, Witcher. Did you happen to see me brother in there? Horn's his name. He went in with the druid and a few other lads.
I found your friends. All dead, unfortunately. Sorry.
Told him not to go, but he wanted glory.
Let's go home, Jarl. No point standing here. Farewell, Witcher. Thanks again for helping.
That feels like genuine emotion, and I really did feel bad to tell him the news. And these people have to now go on with their lives after losing loved ones. It's genuinely sad. The path of the warriors was my next conquest. I'm aware I should be focusing on protecting Ciri, but I couldn't in good conscience leave my quest log full like that. I ran this path made specifically for native warriors, of course, I bloody nailed it. Heading to the peak of the mountain and then down into the caves, receiving 50 XP and an assault gauntlets diagram. And some more shite. Fuck, why do I do this? I then decided it was time to collect the final diagrams for the Witcher cat gear, stage 4, the final stage, mastercrafted, as I was very nearing the level where I'd be able to wear it. Heading through the caves, solving puzzles, fighting a vampire, it took some work, but eventually I rounded up all the diagrams I needed for when I finally hit level 34. Then I was off to Velen to round up my last high-level contracts there. Some more missing people, and then a creature prowling nearby Oxenfurt. I was also fucked over by some people who gave me the contract, underpaying. Gave them a little talking to, and they paid up, of course.
What you're due is a punch in the face. Gold. Now. Some advice before you go. Don't ever try to cheat a Witcher again. Ever.
With the last bits and pieces rounded up, give or take, I finally headed to find Ciri in Novigrad to help her finish off some of her unfinished business. Finding her in the marketplace, she'd been shopping for trinkets of some kind, looking to find a gift for her friend who helped her while she was in Novigrad, wanting us to join her, and of course, we say yes, how could we not? First off, Ciri lets us know that apparently Whoreson Jr. is back in town, which is odd because we killed him a while ago, so that's interesting to say the least. We had to head to his hideout to see what was up. Upon arriving, it's pretty clear that he's doing fine, strangely, but it all becomes clear once Ciri threatens him.
Shut your trap, witch! Before somebody fills that hole for you.
Enough! I'll finish what you started.
Whoa, stop, it's me, Dudu Beaverfell. You really didn't recognize me?
Dudu?
Wait, Ciri. After the heist, after Dijkstra's vault was emptied, you vanished. How'd I find you? Quick.
Butcher's Yard, the Mama's Play, Priscilla's. You dragged me onto the stage.
Sheathe your sword, Ciri. It's Dudu.
I like this wrap-up for minor characters, especially ones like Dudu. It's nice to see them interact and have Ciri speak to them outside of action pieces, and it seems Whoreson gets a second chance in a way.
No one mourned for Whoreson Jr. In all his miserable life, he'd never helped a soul. Amusingly, once dead, he became a useful member of society. They say everyone deserves a second chance. Seems true enough. Whoreson got his, in a way, sharing it with a Doppler named Dudu.
Next up, it was time to head to the Golden Sturgeon to meet with a woman that helped Ciri hide whilst in Novigrad, a woman named Bee. Clearly a caring woman. Again, every single little character gets depth, even ones we meet only very, very briefly. Ciri hands over a gift, and we head on our way. Next, we've got to visit a group of travelling circus performers, non-humans, who helped Ciri when she couldn't find Triss. This is nice. You get to see Ciri genuinely happy, and it means a lot to Geralt and to the player. Seeing her meet up with people who helped her, and all of them saying how much they've heard of Geralt. Right away, we're swept into a race, just for fun. Seeing Ciri enjoy herself is enough for Geralt to do these things, and of course I fucking ran them both into the ground because I prepared for this moment by completing every single goddamn race across the continent and Skellige, beating the fastest racers, getting the best gear for Roach. I left them in the fucking dirt, crying their eyes out. I mean, yeah, it's all just for fun. Geralt and Ciri stay for the night to celebrate with the others. They talk everything over, relaxing by the campfire. It feels nice, just escaping from all the drama and action, even just for one night, and I think that's conveyed well in this quest. Another of Ciri's friends is upset a merchant wouldn't trade with him, purely because he was non-human, and so the plan is to steal the horses. I mean, the man's racist, so we can hardly feel bad about robbing him. So the three of us sneak into the stables, knock out the guard, and then steal the horses, riding off into the night. Ciri absolutely beaming from the fun of it. After spending so much time learning lessons and staying hidden, this is the life that she wants. Going anywhere, doing what she wants, not constantly hiding. Another reason why she needs to stop Eredin. We all do. We say goodbye to Ciri and head off this time to find Triss. Upon reaching her, she's not at all happy that we went to Bald Mountain with Ciri, the nagging fucking bitch. We also find out what happened to Keira Metz. She left after the battle with Lambert, so hopefully the two of them can be happy together, somewhere.
Few can refuse a sorceress, and Keira Metz certainly had her ways. But when she demanded the Mage Alexander's notes, I had to turn her down. Keira needed that, as she needed the impetus to start anew. She found it where she least expected to. Years later, known for discovering the cure for the Catriona plague, she was thankful none remembered her time in hiding as a village witch.
Triss and Yen are looking for Philippa and Rita, two of the sorceresses of the lodge. Yen has a trail on Rita, and Triss is looking for Philippa. She's found her. She was turned into an owl and then had a dimeritium band placed around her leg, which means she's stuck as an owl. Might seem like finding a needle in a haystack, however, Zoltan already had her. Problem is, he lost her in a card game. To find her, we use her feather and some hydromancy to see where she is, with Dijkstra. Right away, Geralt and Triss head off to the bathhouse to find Philippa and make sure Dijkstra doesn't do anything too drastic. Once there, she's basically destroying the entire bathhouse. We run in and chase her through the sewers and sneak up behind her to take her down. I tried my best to avoid killing men because she bewitched them and they're innocent as far as I know. We got to Philippa, took her down, and had to ask for her help. Heading back through the bathhouse, Dijkstra doesn't want us to leave with Philippa. Understandably so. To make sure he lets us, as well as triggering the final quest to round off the Radovid assassination, we give him information about Emir. Doing so leads Philippa to learn of the plan to kill Radovid, and she wants to see him dead too.
Do I understand you correctly? You want to kill Radovid? Well, Siggy, I am impressed. Doubted you still had it in you, frankly. Sadly, as you well know, Radovid has sought refuge on his boat. He's guarded so closely, I'd not be at all surprised to learn he shares his bed each night with 2 sentries.
You know too much, Phil. Yet one more reason why you must die.
Think you might want to hear her out. Dare say Philippa despises Radovid at least as much as you do.
I'm content someone apart from myself has finally gotten the idea to rid the world of the degenerate.
We'll save that one for later, however. Triss and Philippa leave through the portal and head to the Chameleon. It's time we went and found Yen, who's waiting for us at Crippled Kate's. Upon sitting with Yen, she gives us a very different reaction to the one Triss did with regards to taking Ciri to Bald Mountain.
I'm glad you went with her.
I thought you'd be angry.
Angry? Why? Because you supported Ciri in her decision? Or because you fought by her side and won?
What if we'd lost?
We wouldn't be having this conversation. And the female part of the continent's population would be drowning in tears. You won. No point bothering with what ifs.
I always knew Yen was the right one. What a lad. Yen knows how to get to Rita. She's in a very, very well-guarded prison in Oxenfurt. It's rumoured that anyone sentenced to that prison never gets out alive, except for one man who's entering Crippled Kate's right now. Of course, we spook him and he legs it, prompting us to chase him down, which I think is the only quest to do that, and since there's no actual tackle mechanic in this game, you just tap the interact button and it triggers the cutscene.
Thought you'd agreed to meet.
I said I'd found him, not that I'd spoken to him.
What do you want from me? Let me be!
Calm down, we just want to chat.
And then stick a shiv between my ribs. Leave me in the gutter.
Look at us. Do we look like bandits to you?
No, not really.
I'm glad you agree. Besides, you'd be worthless to us dead.
So you shan't hurt me?
No. You're gonna tell us your story, then be on your way.
Oh, so be it. We really ought to go back to Kate's. It's unwise to linger in the street.
Heading back to the tavern, he explains exactly how he escaped, and that's our key to getting in. The sewers. As always. We meet Yen in Oxenfurt to break into the prison. We find a well which is the entrance to the sewer, and we can use it to enter the prison. And in classic Yen fashion, I have to jump in whilst she stays above ground, which I guess is fair enough. Once down there, we work our way through a few puzzles, kill a few drowners, and swim a bit here and there until we reach the prison. Take out the guards and find Rita behind bars, but alive. And she explains we need to find the key, so that's exactly what we do. And in doing so, I also murder half of the fortress, but you know, that's just how it be sometimes. I grab the key from the captain and bring it back to let her out. Yen comes in and teleports her out. Another quest complete. Now it's time for us to get out of the prison ourselves, and doing so, we need to head back to Novigrad and speak to the sorceresses at the Chameleon. The Lodge want to speak to Ciri. I really should have told her that she'd do fine on her own, but being sort of one with Geralt, I said I'd go with her. Don't fear though, I make up for my shortcomings in these past couple of dialogue trees during the Child of the Elder Blood, as this moment and the previous one at Kaer Morhen about cheering her up, plus ones later on, contribute to Ciri's fate come the end of the game. I went with her however, and the Lodge basically wants Ciri to join them, to learn to control her powers. They don't want to force her, at least they don't appear to. Not that it matters, as it's clear Ciri has no interest. This quest more so serves as more doubt to Avallac's nobility in all of this, making us and the characters question his loyalty. Talking of our boy Avallac, we walk in on him looking at porn. Oh right, okay then. Moving swiftly on from that. Avallac has a plan to take down Eredin, and he needs our help to do it.
The loss of one of his great generals has weakened Eredin significantly. 2 others remain.
How do we get rid of them?
Caranthier is a loyalist, but Gels, that is another story. He was a devoted follower of our former king. And as it happens, Eredin poisoned our beloved ruler.
We need to find a portal which will allow us to travel between worlds so that we can find Gels and set our plan in motion. This quest is so incredibly fun, being able to travel across these different realms, seeing a taste of what Ciri saw. It's so different from being in the regular world of The Witcher, and it shows what kind of interesting places CD Projekt Red are capable of creating. First up, we visit a desert planet, a world that used to be completely water. Supposedly, intelligent life lived here, but no creatures, just the sea, appearing to reference the book Solaris by Polish author Stanisław Lem. But now it's a barren wasteland of sand and rocks, inhabited only by sand crabs. Speaking of which, we have to fight them off, as more and more show up before the portal opens, adding tension, and also allowing us to see creatures of another world. Entering the portal, we become split up from Avallac, leaving us to navigate this interesting world and get to the portal, this world of giant rocks known as Poisoned Valley. Geralt has to dash through the poisoned fields of gas to reach a safe distance before dying. You have to be quick, and it does sometimes cut it very close. Reaching the portal, we end up at our next location. The Ice Plains, a world consumed by the White Frost, as Ciri spoke of a while back. This is the fate that awaits all worlds in the end, consuming everything it touches. An ice age that ends all life. Making our way through the old icy village, avoiding the frost that damages you like mad, ducking into hallways and finding our way through, we reach the lighthouse where Avallac is waiting. He confirms that this is the fate of all worlds eventually, and there's no avoiding it. He also confirms that Ciri is the one that saved Geralt from the Wild Hunt and left him outside Kaer Morhen, which triggered the beginning of The Witcher 1. This is what led Eredin to begin chasing her, and Geralt feels guilt learning this. The final portal awaits onto Tirnalia to speak with Gels. Whilst walking to Gels, you can see the gorgeous elven architecture, a beautiful waterfall framed by large city structures. We finally meet with Gels and explain our plan, what we want to do.
I've come to tell you who killed our king.
You've gone through a great deal of trouble to reach me, so I must believe you've put equal effort into preparing this lie.
You shall see the truth. You will dream it.
You've been a neuromancer. My intuition was correct. This will be interesting.
Taking them back to our world, we use Korean Tilly to show Gels a vision of who killed their king in his dreams. This way it can be for certain that it's true. And in doing so, all we ask is that when we fight Eredin, Gels will not send backup.
You must face him on your terms, in this world, in a place of your choosing. It's your only chance. Sail to Skellige and find the Sunstone. With it, you will summon the Naga Fair. Eredin will come too. Should he call for reinforcements, no NL will answer.
You have done the thing most just.
And with that done, we are ready to take down Eredin, and when we engage him, we'll have the upper hand. Everything is in place. The lodge, our security from Gels, and the band of heroes we've gathered. Final thing to do now is to find the Sunstone in Skellige and use it to lure in Eredin on Undvik to take him down once and for all. However, there was one last thing I had to tend to on the continent. Radovid. Now this quest is the payoff for a long build-up over the course of the game, and requires a completion of a few quests and a few very specific choices. First off, you have to complete the quests A Deadly Plot, Eye for an Eye, Redania's Most Wanted, Matter of Life and Death, and Now or Never, as well as choosing to bribe Dijkstra with Nilfgaardian information during the quest Blindingly Obvious. By doing this, the quest Reason of State will trigger. Entering the warehouse, we're greeted by the boys, Dijkstra, Tala, and Roach, and they have a plan to get Radovid.
Geralt, do I recall correctly that Radovid's hired you to find Philippa?
Only thing I've found is her hideout. What's your point?
We can use Philippa without involving her, provided you help. Radovid expects you to report to him, bring him information about her. All you need to do is mention her name, intimate that you've a lead, you're on her trail.
Oh, he'll swallow that. Hook, line, sinker, and a good bit of the rod as well.
Let's say Radovid bites, believes me, and none of that's a given. What then?
You'll tell him you've found Philippa's hideout, somewhere where we can easily set a trap and ambush. Suggestions?
Bridge to Temple Isle. Built up both sides. Lots of nooks, gates. Easy to block off from the rest of the city.
Good idea. I'll divide my men, post half on one end, other half on the other, by the gate. And in the middle, Vess, with a well-oiled crossbow.
After leaving the warehouse, Philippa is waiting. She was eavesdropping on the conversation. She helps us get to Radovid, giving us a ring, something that would prove Geralt had Philippa, a ring of Radovid's father. And so we go off to the docks to try and lure out Radovid onto dry land and into our trap.
My father's ring. Philippa used it to stamp her decrees, then distribute them as the word of the king. Where is she?
Under your nose, sire. In Novigrad, in a house on the bridge leading to Temple Isle.
Why haven't you brought her to me?
Gotta capture someone to take them anywhere. All I did was track her down, then stole this ring as proof that I had.
Do you fear her?
No. You want to kill her yourself. With your own hands. I know this.
You shall come with me. Hubrecht, gather the men.
How many, sire?
All of them. Well, where is she? Where is Philippa?
Like I said, house on the bridge, closer to the other end.
Close off this end. We need no guests, no innocent bystanders, or witnesses. Damian, Duke, Egbert, Freak, Caspar. You shall stay here, secure the rear, and kill the Witcher.
Radovid wants to have Geralt killed, something we probably should have seen coming. Good thing, however, is Roach is here to free us, and now it's after Radovid. All hell has broken loose on St. Gregory's Bridge to Temple Isle. Guards everywhere and our men fighting alongside us. A mini battlefield in the middle of a city. Tension is high as we fight our way through the Redanian soldiers, temple guards, and witch hunters to reach the end of the bridge, the house where Philippa is said to be hiding. However, she is actually there, waiting for Radovid. As he walks back in fright, Philippa takes his eyes in a moment of pure poetic irony.
That settles the score. And that was from the heart. Forgive me. I could not deny myself the pleasure.
How did she... Where? Why? How the fuck?
Eavesdropped on us, back at the warehouse.
What? And you didn't think it worth mentioning?
Lads, the time to discuss this is later. Radovid is dead. It matters not by whose hand. Mission accomplished. Now let's get the hell away. Place will be thick with Redanians in minutes.
Let's go.
And with that, Radovid is dead. It's time to head back to the theatre to wait out the aftermath and discuss next steps. Tyler explains what their plan is.
Tomorrow at noon, the commander of Army Group Center will sign a truce in Emir's name. A truce whose wording we agreed with Dijkstra.
So back there in Velen, when the trolls nabbed you?
Yes, I was returning from the last round of talks. Emir will keep Edion and Lyria, but in exchange for Radovid's head and a stop to guerrilla activities, he will withdraw from Temeria.
All seems well until Dijkstra appears from the stage.
What Tala told you, put it out of your mind. There will be no truce with Nilfgaard. Redania, under my enlightened rule, will fight on until it wins. And when it does, it will unite all the North, including Temeria.
What? How? This is not what we planned and agreed.
True. Instead, we insisted on one realm's questionable sovereignty. And to recover it, we gave Emir virtually all the North's other kingdoms. It was not a wise arrangement. So, no deal.
And so I had to make a choice. I was hardly going to side with Dijkstra. I fought with Tala and Roach against his men and killed Dijkstra, meaning their original plan would stand, and this would craft out an important world ending for the game. With Radovid dead and Dijkstra unable to enact his master plan, Temeria will become free and the vassal state of Nilfgaard. Hopefully this will bring an end to the atrocities committed under Radovid's reign. Only time would tell. It was now time to make our leave for Skellige, to continue and finish the final quests for this game. A lot had built up to this, but it wasn't long now. The final battle would be soon, and it felt dangerous. No happiness can last for long, and once in Skellige, Emir was here, with his fleet. Good part was, he'd be able to help us fight the hunt, and Fringilla Vigo was aboard, the last lodge member we needed to fight the hunt. And so, once docking up at Cairtrold, we had a few tasks. Finding the Sunstone, and getting back Fringilla. First things first, I snuck onto the Emperor's ship under the cover of night. Really badly, might I add. But we got Fringilla back. I also love the back and forth between Emir and Geralt. Geralt won't back down, at least based on my dialogue choices, and Emir won't back down either. Both are stubborn and not willing to give the other one a leg up, and I think they have respect for each other in that regard. Fringilla opens a portal, and we reconvene with the lads at Cairtrold. Now before I continue with anything, we're at level 34, and it's about time we got our armor collection completed for the School of the Cat. The mastercrafted gear was right around the corner. Heading to our girl Joanna in Crow's Perch and looking bloody good if I do say so myself. It feels good finally having crafted the max tier Witcher gear. It feels like we worked for something and we end up with something we can be happy with and feel great going into battle wearing it. I love this progression for armor and it genuinely feels very, very satisfying. Then of course we needed the silver and steel swords from our swordsmith in Novigrad. With that done, we can head back to Skellige and speak with Crack and Ermion, as we need to find him in order to locate the Sunstone, the relic we need to lure Eredin to Undvik. Crack tells us that he sent Ermion to go speak with Lugos. After Ceres became queen, civil war is brewing on Skellige, and Ermion is trying to calm the Jarls down. Upon arriving, Geralt pushes Lugos over the edge, and I'm honestly not sure if it was my doing because of the dialogue choices, or if that's just what always happens, but he wasn't too happy with us. A fight breaks out, and we kill Lugos and his men and escape with Ermion, who basically says we've got him out of a bind, and that was going to happen sooner or later anyway, based on the state of the politics.
For ages, men had shed each other's blood in the quest for Skellige's crown. Politics as usual, just a difference of degree. Yet the bloody feast at Caer Trolda was different. It was dishonorable, treacherous, needed investigation. More Witcher's work. Work that culminated with the crowning of the Isle's new queen.
Ermion tells us there's two people we can ask, Pearl Divers and a man called Eyvind. We went to Eyvind first and botched that up by spooking him with my terrible lies, so next was to go find the Pearl Divers. They tell us of an entrance to Elven ruins that you can only reach from the sea, ruins they've never been able to enter, east of Caer Trolde. That solidifies where we need to go next, so it's time to talk to Yen. In doing so, it splits our quest into two parts. Ciri wants to investigate Avallac's lab to learn more about our elven friend, and Philippa heads to the elven ruins to await us in order to find the Sunstone. First thing I did was meet with Yen and Ciri at Avallac's lab. This quest is a great one. Anytime we get to spend with characters like Yen and Ciri are a blast. And also, this is an important quest to get certain choices right that I wanted for the ending. Making sure to let Ciri go wild in destroying the lab and also accompanying her to see Skjald's grave in Hindarsfjall. First things first, however, we explore this lab, finding nothing really of note until the final room. Finding Avallac had been trying to cultivate a genetic mixture like Ciri's but excluding the human DNA. Trying to create a pure descendant of Lara Dorren. With Ciri feeling entirely frustrated with this entire situation and wanting to destroy the lab, Geralt encourages her, not to use her powers, but to let her anger out the old-fashioned way.
That's better. Let's get out of here.
This scene shows the love he has for her and wanting her to feel happy. The way he prompts her in such a playful manner, letting out her anger whilst also having fun and laughing. It's incredibly well done. Moving forward, Ciri wants to see Skjald, only to find from Yen that he's unfortunately dead. And so Ciri wants to see his grave. This is another crucial moment. We have to choose to go with Ciri to receive what I personally consider to be the best ending. And so we do. Once we reach Hindarsfjall, we find Skjald has no grave. He was never buried. Likely because they considered he ran away from the battle and he was a traitor. So they look for him elsewhere. Somewhere they dump the bodies of sheep. Skjald was left there, rotting. Ciri can't leave him and buries him herself, finally finding peace with what had happened. A few folk from the village find them and they're not too happy. Ciri promptly has something to say about it. Fucking get him, Ciri. She certainly knows how to control the situation. And with that wrapped up, it's time we headed back to the boat and continued our quest to find the Sunstone. Docking our boat outside the entrance, we meet Philippa, who's been waiting. Very patiently, I suppose. She opens the entrance with magic and allows us to enter. Progressing through, we get some more insight into Philippa's plans, as well as some banter between her and Geralt. We fight some sirens, complete some puzzles, and reach the final room with a mirror puzzle that should have been easy, but I couldn't figure it out, and honestly, completing it was pure luck. I think I misunderstood the goal. Fuck, I don't know. I feel like an idiot explaining this. Let's just move on. The Sunstone is ours. Philippa turns into an owl and fucks off, and we head back to the gang at the boat. Everything is now ready. Everything is set, and it's time to face the Wild Hunt. We speak to Avalac and set sail for Undervik. Once here, Emir has set barracks, we have tents and plenty of soldiers. Avalac explains their plan.
I shall activate the Sunstone. If Caranthia answers the call, the Nagle Fair should appear in the bay shortly afterwards.
The Lodge must then prevent the ship from returning to the world of the NL, while the Imperial fleet blocks its escape by sea.
The 7th Imlet's Infantry Regiment under Duke Varatra must then board it. With your help, naturally.
What about you? Where will you be?
Waiting in reserve. If something goes wrong, I shall react.
Like a general commanding troops from a hilltop? Gonna signal us by horn or use messengers?
Exquisite irony, but what did I do to deserve it?
Ciri isn't too happy about the fact she has to stay away from the Nagle Fair, but this entire thing is to protect Ciri. Having her run into battle would jeopardize the entire operation. This is our final chance to prepare before the fight. We must speak to Avalac when we're ready to begin the final battle. However, we speak to Yen first. She proposes, after all of this, for them to just get away on their own.
You? Dropping plots and politics for good? You're in your element in that world. It's your life.
Time to start anew.
I'll believe it when I see it. Even now you're up to your neck in it.
Yes, but only to set matters straight. To be able to withdraw having retained the upper hand.
What then? A small secluded hut with a flower garden to tend to?
Why not, if that is what you dream of? We shall leave together. Go where we please, do whatever strikes our fancy. So, coming with?
I'd go anywhere with you.
The answer I was hoping for. Go, Geralt. Avalac awaits. And don't get killed, Witcher.
There's so much to fight for and so much at stake. The build-up is definitely tense. This feels like the be-all and end-all, and the game makes that very clear. It always manages to rope you into the fantasy they've built, and I love that. It was time. I went to speak to Avalac, and the battle began.
I give you my heart? What kind of spell is that?
It's an old love letter. Ancient. As I said, this stone was to reunite a pair of lovers.
Never thought I'd say anything of the sort to Eredin. En verilith serenad, Ada eich blaen, Idene.
The elven bauble worked.
They approach.
advise you. Galevuanet.
Follow me. The Noggle Fair must be nearby.
Silence. It's completely still.
It's a trap. We must flee, now.
Not this time.
Note, Ciri. You are not ready. You do not control your powers.
I'll manage.
Ciri.
Get out of my way.
Ciri! The ice. It's a spell. You must find the mage who cast it. Destroy his staff.
I'll not stop with his staff.
Taking control of Ciri, we fight our way through the Wild Hunt to reach Caranthir. The music during this battle is incredible. It builds and builds and makes this fight feel so much bigger. Once we get his health down to a certain level, we get this marvelous scene. With the scepter destroyed, Geralt is now free, as are the other troops. However, Ciri is wounded, just managing to teleport away. Geralt has to fight. I also love this scene where Geralt breaks free of the ice. It plays his theme gently as if building to something. It's fucking beautiful.
So be it. Let us end this.
The Caranthir battle is another fun one, with his gimmicks being teleporting and the summoning of other monsters to fight you, having to make sure you dodge his teleport attacks and you close distance before he moves again, doing as much damage as you possibly can, using Quen to your advantage and taking him down. With Caranthir dead, Geralt rises to the surface and sees Ciri in danger. She manages to teleport away again in time, and now there's just one last thing for Geralt to do. Take the fight to Eredin. Navigating the battlefield, we see soldiers and the Wild Hunt, friends we've met across the game, and destruction everywhere. It's a gorgeous set piece, and one that fills you with dread for what might happen if we don't succeed. Once we reach Eredin, there's no going back, and it's time to end this. Everything we've done has led to this moment. We aren't just fighting for our life, but for Ciri's and everyone in this world.
Any last words?
Set the trap. Fight.
You had your chance.
I was hoping you'd come.
Because?
I've something to tell you. But I'll do so afterwards. As you expire.
Crack dead on the ship and everyone occupied, we engage Eridan, using Quen to shield ourselves and dodging where necessary. Eridan is very quick and his teleports only make his attacks harder to avoid. Once his health is a certain level, he'll throw you through a portal and change his attack pattern. Using Igni is very helpful during this battle when he coats himself with a layer of ice. You can stun him with the fire and then get some attacks in. The music for this battle is tense and the scenery is just stunning. The red sun and the snow and ice, while flames are all around us. Eridan is a tough son of a bitch, but nothing we can't handle. Going back through the portal as ice rocks fall on the top of the mountain, we get back to the boat where we can finally finish this motherfucker off.
said you had something to tell me.
Lilac has tricked us both. He set us against each other, and he's made off with Ciri.
I don't believe you. It's now a race against time to find Ciri, as another conjunction of the spheres occurs, the events which brought such magic creatures into this world to begin with over 1,000 years ago. Reaching the base of the mountain, Yen has to use her strength to create a tear in the force field and allow Geralt through to find Ciri.
Agorez! Tirgain! Agorez! Now, Geralt! I'm fine! Now go! Give Avalac my heartfelt regards.
In reaching the Elven Tower, we find Avalac, and Geralt is done playing games.
Where's Ciri?
Nearby. Listen.
Shut up. I've heard enough of your bullshit. Draw your weapon. Let's get this over with.
Until Ciri appears, saying she chose this. Nobody forced her. This is her destiny, her fate, to stop the White Frost.
I asked him to help me open the tower, because I aim to enter it.
Why the hell would you do this? The Wild Hunt's been defeated.
The White Frost has not. The prophecies are true. I have seen worlds bound in ice. I know what awaits you.
As Ciri enters the tower, we see flashbacks. She remembers good times with Geralt, and then she disappears. Depending on your ending, Ciri can either survive or she can die. Your choices create your ending, and it all depends on you. But you already know which ending we got. The only ending I could ever consider being canon, but we're getting there. Ciri is gone, and her fate is unknown. The battle is over, and the world can breathe a sigh of relief. Two weeks later, Geralt is visiting Emhyr, explaining the fate of his daughter, that she sadly has died.
Speak.
Ciri is dead.
How did it happen?
The White Cold. You're familiar with the prophecy? Ciri tried to stop it. She did, but paid the ultimate price.
Where is the body?
I doubt it'll ever be found.
Who else knows?
Avallach, Elven Sage. But I doubt you'll find him either.
And Yennefer?
She's decided to stay in the north. Provided you don't object.
I don't. And you?
Plenty of work for witchers after a war. I'll travel east, maybe north.
Did Cirilla say... Did she ask you to convey anything?
We didn't talk about you.
I see.
If there's nothing else...
There is, but you may go. Witcher, I do not wish to see you ever again.
Geralt leaves Vizima and heads back to White Orchard. Now this part of the game can be vastly different. It all depends on your choices across the game as to how this ending plays out, but as I've been doing this entire video, this is my story and my choices laid out in video form. We get some nice moments here. Geralt encountering different people, explaining the change in the world, based on our choices, showing what comes next for this world. It's time to ride to the ruined fortress, one of the first places we ever visited in this game. It feels so strange coming back after such a long time. We've been through so much, and it genuinely feels different to look at White Orchard after all that's transpired. As Geralt climbs the steps to the fortress, I thought about the journey we'd been on. Last time we were here, we were with Vesemir, poking fun and laughing, whilst looking for Yen. Before the Wild Hunt, before Ciri, and before Avallach, before any of it. Simpler times. Geralt meditates to wait for the swordsmith he's to meet here, bringing an item Geralt had requested to be made.
You're late.
Soldiers.
Blocking the roads, I know. No matter. You have it?
As agreed. 38.5-inch blade. Weight just under 40 ounces. Silver-plated siderite steel core. Glyphs and runes both the length of the blade and on the hilt.
Beautiful.
Been in this trade for 3 decades. Only the best swordsmen have the coin for my wares. When I say no witcher has, or ever had, a better weapon, you ought to trust me.
Reputation precedes you, Master Horde. I'd never doubt you.
The inscription, as you asked.
Zirael. Swallow.
Classic Elder Speech runes, no styling, simple and precise.
May I?
It is yours. If you'd like to test it, have my lackeys put out a training dummy.
Mm-hmm. Your payment. Gems only, as requested.
Good luck on the path, Witcher.
With Zirael acquired, it's time we head to the inn in White Orchard to finish our journey. On the way, we meet the band of dwarves that stole our boat. Help them out with a party of Nilfgaardian soldiers looking for them due to theft. Usually I'll just let the fuckers get what's coming to them, especially since they stole from me, but I didn't have the heart. It was a good day. Plus, I got some coin in the end. I took Roach and we headed into town, the first place we ever visited. Seeing how things have changed, a soldier talking to a woman he must have fallen in love with while stationed here, little things, showing how the world is shifting and changing. I would so very much have loved to have seen this change happen to the entire world post-game, game, rather than what it does, which is setting things prior to the ending. But you can't have it all, as interesting as it would be to see how Novigrad or Velen has changed due to your choices. Entering the inn, Geralt finds the person he's to meet here, walks over and sits down at the table.
Is it done?
Yes.
Did he believe you?
I have no idea.
For the cockatrice. And we've a new contract. It won't pay much, but I think it worth the toil.
You've been busy. It's yours.
A witch's sword. Swallow. Ooh, beautiful. May I?
Not here. You'll have ample opportunity soon enough, Witcher.
Ciri looks at a new weapon, now a Witcher, now free. That closes this chapter in their story and concludes The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Let's try it out then.
The Third Northern War ended. The invader from the south achieved complete victory. Robbed of Radovid's tactical genius, the northern realms could not withstand Ymir's countless legions. Black banners appeared over Novigrad and all Redania. Weary of rebel raids, Ymir Varemrys conceded, restoring Temeria as a realm in liege to the Empire. When the guerrillas laid down their arms, the Emperor shifted his forces to other fronts. Through Nilfgaard's victory, Temerians got their country back, and history once again proved a consummate trickster. Having dealt with Radovid, Ymir of Varemrys did the same with enemies domestic. The Emperor's loyal spies named all who had conspired against him, traitors, soldiers, and aristocrats alike. Though their mutiny had only been a murky plan, the Emperor showed no mercy, as was his wont. While the continent bled engulfed by war, Skellige bloomed under Ceres's enlightened rule. Unlike those who had come before her, the young queen did not raid foreign shores, looking instead to her people, tending to her land. The island-bound nation prospered, though its fangs of yore were dulled. Cirilla, Fiona, Ellen, Rhiannon, heir to Nilfgaard's throne, chose the life of a witcher on the path. Geralt taught her all he knew, every skill he possessed, then each set off on their own. Soon word of the ashen-haired witcheress had spread throughout the north, from the Yaruga to the mountains of Kovir. While monarchs moved borders and populations, Geralt and Yennefer lived a calm, quiet life, far from all things political. They breakfasted well after noon, more often than not in bed, and passed the days on lazy strolls and long conversations. Boring, you say? Perhaps. But both had sought this more than anything else.
I didn't realize whilst I was playing quite how much I would miss this game. I was so caught up in doing everything and getting this video made that I don't think I realized until I saw the credits roll and put down the controller that I would genuinely miss playing this game every day, that I would miss hearing the music or the general chatter of folk in the streets, that I'd miss playing Gwent and absolutely demolishing every single person that I came across, that I'd miss taking contracts and fighting monsters, and that most of all I'd miss every single character in this wonderful world of The Witcher. The world building is second to none, the development and depth of every single character, even the most minuscule, is so well cared for, and I can't stress enough the clear love and time that has gone into creating every single fiber of this video game experience. The story was gripping from start to finish despite me knowing the outcome, and I felt every single choice mattered to me, even the most minor. From the Baron to the Wild Hunt and every moment in between, I felt the life and energy from this game. Not enough products these days convey the same raw vitality of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The gameplay had me engaged every single second, and the pacing of the progression is so perfectly balanced, like no game I've ever played before. The dialogue trees are so attentively thought out, and the outcomes all make so much sense. The politics and drama bring the backdrops of this story to life, and it makes it feel convincing to no end. Thank you, CD Projekt Red. Thank you, Andrew Sapkowski, and thank you to The Witcher. Speaking of thank yous, thank you all so much for watching this video. This video has been a labor of love from me to this game for you. I have spent over 2 months putting this together, playing this game, writing notes, getting the script together. This is the biggest thing I've ever worked on, and as much as it's driven me insane, I genuinely have loved it, and I'm so happy I decided to do this, even if just for my own pleasure. If you want to help support videos like this in the future, check out patreon.com/AzerWayers. Get exclusive content, early access, and a ton more. Plus, help fund these sorts of videos. A like is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for when I tackle Hearts of Stone later this year and Blood and Wine a year from now. I cannot wait to delve back into the world of The Witcher, but for now, thank you for watching this, and I will see you all soon.